Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Tsundere Empress, Immortal Supreme. Just a Provocative Disciple. Chapter 1, Sijingzhou, Dongzhou. A red star streaked across the blue sky. It was teetering on the edge, but every time it slowed down, it would try its best to speed up. It just kept sprinting forward intermittently. Behind the red star, there is a white light following closely. The white light is floating in light, unhurried and unhurried. Hongying finally couldn't hold on any longer. She fell straight to the ground. Boom! Where it fell, a dull impact sounded, and a large crater was created on the ground. The white shadow floated down, and a young man dressed in white slowly appeared. What he saw was a cold young man. He has a thin and straight figure, and a handsome appearance, and he looks like an immortal from heaven. The young man's face was as white as jade, and only a touch of red lips made him look more popular, otherwise he would have thought he was an ice jade sculpture. He stood beside the pit where the red shadow fell, his eyes ruthless and his tone cold. Demon Emperor Lang Firen of the demon sect, aren't you going to surrender? Spit. With a sigh from the pit. I saw a woman in a red dress floating out of the pit. She looks extremely coquettish, and her red dress is slightly damaged, which makes her look even more charming. Lang Firen's hair has been messed up, adding a touch of messy beauty. A hosta hung crookedly in her hair, but it hadn't fallen off yet. But she seemed to be aware of the crookedness of the hosta. Turning back her slender wrist, she grabbed the hosta and pulled it in front of her. She looked at the young man with a ferocious expression, and cursed angrily, "You Qingling. You are so cruel. It was in vain that I took you in, cultivated you, and accepted your gifts. Now, you actually colluded with those hypocritical to mercilessly attack me. Is this your path to immortality? Is this your attitude towards master? You traitor." Quote. She threw the hosta to the ground hard, raised a little foot wearing a red embroidered shoe and kicked it down. But before her toes reached her, a surge of power surged over, barely able to block her destruction. What? Why don't you let me trample on your token of love? Or do you think it's a shame because you liked me before? Lang Firen mocked mercilessly. Yu Qingling's expression remained motionless, still as cool as the immortal Liangbo, but there was a slight fluctuation in her tone. I am not your apprentice, not before, and even less so now. You took this hosta from me. He stretched out his slender fingers and hooked it lightly, and the hosta floated back into his hand. Now that the property is returned to its original owner, it can be considered as an end to a bad fate. Lang Firen was furious. You're talking nonsense. You obviously liked me at that time. You Qingling, stop pretending to be an immortal. Do you think I don't know? You have no resistance at all compared to women who are older than you. You are a traitor. Quote. Yu Qingling turned a deaf ear and put away the hosta, still expressionless. But there seemed to be a little more blush on his handsome face. Lang Firen continued to ridicule him. Yunlin Mountain Immortal Lord Yu Qingling, a heavenly cultivator in the Tai realm, ha, bah. I guess those fairies who didn't catch up couldn't have imagined how the Immortal Lord looked at Qingyu Gate, right? In the past 4 years since you have been here, have you forgotten that you once stole so many clothes and shoes from me? Quote. Yu Qingling's beautiful face finally turned red even more obviously. He took a deep breath, and the immortal noble's nobility was finally shattered by Lang Firen's words. Unpopular master, don't mention the past. Ha, you don't want me to mention it. I have to say it. I will also engrave it on batches of photo stones and send them to any place in the 4 kingdoms where there are people, so that everyone will know how insignificant you are and how disgusting you are. Quote. Lang Firen had grasped the enemy's weakness, so she would naturally attack with all her strength. Only by distracting this Tianshou fairy could she possibly escape. That's because I was young and ignorant. Young? How old are you now? You are only 19 years old now. Lang Firen stared at Yu Qingling, her tone full of jealousy and hatred. 5 years ago, this young man came to Sijingzhou for the first time and became a disciple of Qingyu. As the leader of the Qingyu sect, she noticed this boy's talent and accepted him as a disciple. Then, something pleasant but inappropriate happened between the master and the disciple. The name of Qingyu sect is very correct, but in fact it is already a famous demon sect in Dongzhou. Lang Firen locked Yu Qingling in the basement for the sake of the majesty of the demon sect and to prevent herself from having any weaknesses. The boy begged and begged not to do this, but she ignored him. She is the empress of the demon cult. How could a little apprentice get his turn to speak? This level lasts for a year. Yu Qingling was in the basement, going from resistance to numbness, and finally changed his attitude and actively served her. Finally one day, Yu Qingling escaped from the basement. Lang Firen hated his escape so much that she wished she could catch him back, destroy his spiritual roots, and never see the light of day again. But Yu Qingling seemed to have an enlightenment. In just 3 years, he rushed from the earthly cultivation realm to the heavenly cultivation Tai realm. This is already the highest 3 realms of monks. Further up is the realm of saints, which is impossible to reach without inheritance. 18-year-old Yu Qingling was not eager for revenge. Instead, he founded a sect in Yunlin Mountain in Dongzhou and became the most famous and youngest immortal in Sijingzhou. The empress of the demon sect is only in the 4 directions realm of earthly cultivator, so there is no need to be at odds with Yu Shanzun. Lang Firen originally wanted to find an opportunity to ease the relationship between the 2 parties, but the famous and decent factions suddenly united, and Yaogong and Lingjing's sect attracted Yu Qingling in advance. The 3 sects were encircling the demon sect, and Lang Firen had already been beaten by the 2 leaders until she vomited blood and fled. Don't chase after the poor enemy. Lang Firen has burned her cultivation level in order to escape, so she is extremely fast. No one can catch up. The exception was Yu Qingling, who had not taken any action at the side. He threw away everyone and chased after them. It looked like he was going to take revenge. But people in the demon sect have always done everything possible, and Lang Firen would never sit back and wait for death. She wants to find a glimmer of hope in front of such a powerful immortal lord. Immortal lord. In just such an instant, the demonic empress turned into a weak woman. She covered her chest and said pitifully, "Immortal lord, you save all sentient beings and educate monks in Yunlin Mountain, and you will benefit all people. I am just a weak woman, why do you have to push me so hard? If you can show your noble hand, I am willing to serve you and act as a horse for you." Quote. Yu Qingling didn't answer. He was as motionless as a jade sculpture. Lang Firen's heart moved when she saw him like this. There's drama. Yu Qingling was born with a cold temperament, and was of noble character and kind-hearted person. Even in the demon sect, she had never practiced demonic skills. At that time, he was like a piece of white jade that fell into the quagmire, so he was deeply attracted to the demonic empress. Now it seems that he is still the soft-hearted little apprentice. Lang Firen came over in a sprint, and lay down in front of Yu Qingling's feet, begging aggrievedly, "Immortal lord, after all, we also have a master-disciple relationship. 1 day as a master and a disciple means 100 days of kindness. We had a full year at that time. Just let me go. When I go back, I will dress up beautifully and go to Yunlin Mountain to serve you, okay?" Quote. She pulled Yu Qingling's clothes and begged pitifully. The first realm, the realm of human cultivation. Yongling, Jishan, Taiyuan, Shenzhou. The second realm, earth cultivation realm. Mountains, long rivers, blue sea, all directions. The third realm, heavenly cultivation realm. Tai, Kongfang, Xuanji, Feixiang. The fourth realm, saint realm. Become a saint, a human king, or a great emperor. Yu Qingling lowered her head slightly and looked at the demon sect empress, with a trace of hesitation in her cold and ruthless eyes. What a shrewd person Lang Firen is. She immediately climbed up the pole and said, "Immortal lord, I have been looking for opportunities to eliminate the grudges 5 years ago, but before I had time to visit you, you were deceived by those fools. I am sincere to you, if you don't believe it, then lead us." Lang Firen exuded a strong charm. She was like a shy bride, refusing to welcome her and said, "Then we can find a place now to test whether the slave family is sincere." Yu Qingling finally moved and shouted softly, "Master." Lang Firen said quickly, "No, master, I will be your little maid from now on, okay?" She almost started begging for food. Yu Qingling looked at her calmly, as if she had untied the shackles in her heart. "Master, you look so despicable." Click. Lang Firen's heart skipped a beat. She lowered her head and almost shed tears in her beautiful eyes. This traitor. At this time, he even killed people and punished his heart. "I feel so wronged, why are you still so picky?" But now that she is not strong enough, she has no choice but to endure the grievance, raise her palm-sized face, and say delicately, "Immortal Lord, don't you like how I am like this? Don't you just want me to kneel down and beg you?" Quote. After saying that, the dignified empress of the demon sect actually hugged Yu Qingling's legs and started to get intimate with her. Enough. Yu Qingling drifted away. The embarrassed demon cult empress was left kneeling on the spot. He said calmly, "When Yaogong and Lingjing sect found me, I didn't agree directly, I just said I would watch. If I chase you now, I will just get my hosta back. At the same time He paused and said with a hint of ridicule, "Look at master like this now, it can be considered as a relief." He turned his back and said, "Just go away. It's a master-disciple battle. I won't do anything to you." Lang Firen looked at him blankly. After a long time, she breathed a sigh of relief. How could she survive? The Empress collapsed on the ground and did not escape immediately. Yu Qingling won't kill her, then she will be safe. She did not continue her pretentious manner, but said calmly, "I judge a gentleman with a villain's heart. Yu Qingling, you are indeed very kind." Yu Qingling didn't reply. She was playing with the hosta in her hand and looking into the distance, obviously concerned. "Are you going to give this hosta away?" Lang Firen slowly stood up and came to his side, wanting to chat more with this young immortal. "Yes, this hosta is the only token I brought with me when I came to this world. I want to give it to the woman I like." Yu Qingling replied, slightly lost in thought. He is a time traveler, but he was young when he came, and his nature and outlook have been perfectly integrated with the Four Realms continent. This artificial gemstone hairpin is his only piece of identification. When he was in the basement of the demon cult before, the Empress beside him arbitrarily snatched away his hosta and asked him to admit that it was sent by him. How could Yu Qingling have any ability to resist at that time? I can only agree without tears. Now, it can be regarded as revenge. And he finally found a girl he liked, the saint of Yao Palace, Lin Qingyu. This time the three sects united. Yu Qingling thought of taking this opportunity to confess to the saint. Now, it should be time to meet. Are you going to give it away? Lang Firen's eyes flashed with a sinister look, and she seemed to have forgotten her situation. Yu Qingling nodded silently. I disagree. Lang Firen stood in front of him so bravely, just like his previous master. Still so arrogant, still so yandere. Yu Qingling wants to laugh a little bit, don't you agree? If you don't agree, just accept it. Unpopular master, please understand the situation. I will spare your life now. He reminded kindly. Then I don't agree either. Lang Firen proudly raised her delicate chin and looked at him without flinching at all. There is no cure. Yu Qingling was defeated. He would never have the courage to compete with Lang Firen. This is master, always aloof. In front of Lang Firen, he will always be the little disciple in the basement who has no ability to resist. Just grab your stuff and leave. He put away the hosta and prepared to leave. Hey, wait a minute, I spent my cultivation to escape. You have to take me back. Lang Firen grabbed his arm and said savagely. Are you still relying on me? A hint of impatience finally appeared on Yu Qingling's cool face. That's not true. If you cooperated with our Qingyu sect, how could I be beaten like this? Isn't it your fault? Lang Firen said plausibly. Yu Qingling couldn't laugh or cry. Yu Qingyu sect have done many evil things and killed many people. You should have suffered this disaster long ago. If you don't want to die, you'd better take your sect and escape to Juyu land. At least there is room for you there. Place. Are you concerned about me? Lang Firen showed a smile and bent down to stare at Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling turned her head. Lang Firen followed and continued watching. That's enough. Master, please respect yourself. Yu Qingling shook her sleeves and prepared to leave. Wait a minute, I'll ask the last question, and after that, let's break up. Lang Firen grabbed his sleeve and said solemnly. Yu Qingling looked at her former master, the owner of the basement, and finally sighed and said, Okay, you can ask. If I answer, let's break up. Lang Firen immediately laughed and said, Then if I didn't ask, wouldn't we have broken off in two? Yu Qingling turned around and was about to leave. Hey, let me ask, can I ask? Lang Firen pouted her little mouth and said helplessly, Just tell me, how did you jump from the human cultivation realm to the heavenly cultivation Tai realm? I know this may involve your cultivation secrets, but I want an explanation, otherwise I will never have peace in my heart. Quote. Yu Qingling didn't hide anything. He pondered for a moment and said, "It's okay to tell you. In fact, I still practice Qingyuman's skills. Qingfang Mingyu Ju. Impossible. Then I have been practicing for hundreds of years, but I am not as fast as you." Lang Firen asked doubtfully. Yu Qingling shook her head. "You gave me the Chan Nu Immortal technique." Lang Firen looked at him blankly, and after a long time she said leisurely, "Have you mastered the Chan Nu Immortal technique?" Yu Qingling nodded. Lang Firen took a few steps back in disbelief, and murmured softly, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. The conditions for cultivating the Chan Nu Immortal technique are so harsh, how could you possibly succeed in it? That is the purest Taoism left by Emperor Qingyu in the world." Quote. Yu Qingling said expressionlessly, "Yes, but I have mastered it, so you will always be my master." "Haha, no wonder you are willing to say it. You also know that you are the only one in the world who can practice the Chan Nu Immortal technique, right?" Lang Firen's expression was sad. Chanu's immortal technique is the highest immortal method of Qingyu sect, but it is not mysterious in Sijing continent. Because for thousands of years, no one has been able to understand this set of immortal techniques. Chanu Immortal technique not only improves cultivation, but also provides all-round knowledge. It is almost an encyclopedia. Kung Fu, martial arts, medical skills, puppetry, formations, etc. are all excellent. If Yu Qingling really succeeds, then he will indeed be the first among the saints in the world. "I've told you, can I go now?" Yu Qingling felt a little reluctant to let go, but there was no need to miss the feelings that should have been severed long ago. After this, the two of them will have nothing to do with each other. Lang Firen looked at him blankly, still saying some incomprehensible words. Empress Qingyu specially developed 2 sets of spiritual methods for cultivating immortals in order for the Qingyu sect to remain prosperous. The Qingfang Mingyu Ju can be described as a majestic road, but the Chanu Immortal method is rugged and steep. In the 13th chapter of the Bright Moon chapter, there is an extremely obscure spell that seems to be able to control the monks who have practiced the Chanu Immortal technique. "Master, can I leave?" Yu Qingling didn't want to answer her, so she asked again. Lang Firen slowly stood in front of him, but her eyes were fixed on his chest. "You are now a strong person in the heavenly cultivation realm, which means that you already have nascent soul meditating on your 3-inch spiritual platform, right?" Yu Qingling looked at her indifferently. "This is already the second question." Lang Firen did not respond, but stared closely at the chest of the Immortal Lord, silently reciting the spell in chapter 13 of the Bright Moon chapter. "The slave of Chanwan is called by the moon." Whoosh. In just such a moment, Lang Firen felt that she had entered a place of clarity and spirituality, and she seemed to have one more perspective. She exclaimed, and then realized that her consciousness appeared in Yu Qingling's 3-inch spiritual platform. And her body was still standing in front of Yu Qingling. Lang Firen saw that on the cold and safe 3-inch spiritual platform, there was Yu Qingling, who was shining with white light. This was his soul. "What have you done?" a voice came. Lang Firen heard Yu Qingling's slightly panicked inquiry. She could still see Yu Qingling's expression in her physical body. He was seen clutching his chest, his lips colorless in shock. Lang Firen didn't answer. She slowly came to the side of Yu Qingling's soul. The soul emitting white light is really like a fairy, elegant to the extreme. Lang Firen laughed dumbly. "Haha, what kind of bullshit immortal? After all, aren't you a puppet of my demon sect? Did this 3-inch spiritual platform let me in so easily? Lord Lang, please come out immediately." Yu Qingling realized the danger. When he looked inside, he was shocked. The nascent soul place of cultivators should be the most defensive place. How could someone get in so easily? Then the opponent's spiritual consciousness can completely ravage his soul. How could Lang Firen listen to him? With elegant steps, she came to the side of Yu Qingling Yuanshan, squatted gently beside the crystal-clear Yuanying, stretched out her slender fingers, and gently poked the Yuanying. Just for a moment, Yu Qingling immediately collapsed to the ground. The immortal cultivator's nascent soul is so sensitive that it can't stand being touched at all. The slightest touch will make the whole body go weak immediately. Yu Qingling struggled to stand up, using Lang Firen's body as a threat. But how could Lang Firen give him a chance? She changed her pitiful look just now, and directly pushed Yu Qingling's soul down carelessly and sat on its waist. "Unpopular master, Stop. Yu Qingling collapsed on the ground, feeling as sensitive as ever before. He only felt that his heart was gripped by Lang Firen. Let him live, and he will live. Let him die, and he will die immediately. The youngest and most promising immortal lord in Xijing continent was just twitching on the ground, his beautiful face already showing the appearance of being humiliated. Lang Firen didn't move much. She just lay on top of her soul, looking at the crystal-clear beauty, and asked proudly, "What did you call me?" "The unpopular master." Hiss. Lang Firen pinched his Yuenshin's arm unceremoniously. Yu Qingling was sweating profusely and curled up on the ground, gasping for air. "Give you another chance, what do you call me?" Yu Qingling couldn't bear the humiliation of her soul, so she whispered in a trembling voice, "Master. Master. Master, please spare me this time." Everything seemed to be back 4 years ago, when he was like this in the basement. Lang Firen taught him these words. He shouted like this when he couldn't bear it anymore. Lang Firen sneered, "Aren't you always chasing me? Come on, kill me." She pinched Yuenshin's face hard and rubbed her hard, showing no mercy at all. Yu Qingling felt extremely uncomfortable, with unspeakable discomfort all over her body. He couldn't help but scratch his chest with his hands until his clothes were scratched and there were more than a dozen red scars on his chest. But even so, it doesn't help. If one's soul is manipulated, life would be worse than death. You cannot live, you cannot die. Yu Qingling has never been so weak as today. He almost knelt on the ground, with his pretty face pressed into the soil, crying and saying painfully, "Master. I beg you, please let me, whatever you do is fine." Finally, Lang Firen had enough fun, and then she stopped. She suppressed the peaceful spirit on her face, but she still had some unfinished thoughts. She said arrogantly, "You know you are wrong. Nua. Does he deserve to be punished?" "Yes, Ling'er is willing to be punished. You are really my traitor." Lang Firen couldn't help pinching Yuenshin's face again. "Hey, I have to say, this soul feels really good." Yu Qingling outside almost fainted. Lang Firen did not continue to pester her. Anyway, she had already grasped Yu Qingling's weakness. This immortal who was admired and admired by thousands of people was just her darling now. Lang Firen recited a spell and came out of Yu Qingling's 3-inch spiritual platform. When she opened her eyes again, she saw Yu Qingling burrowing in the mud in a panic. His white clothes were already dirty, and his whole body had no fairy spirit at all, as if it had been stained by the mud. Pooch. Lang Firen couldn't help but laugh. As masters and apprentices, they both have to dig into the earth. After finishing laughing, Lang Firen saw a little light appearing in the distance. There was a hint of ruthlessness in her beautiful eyes. The fairies from Yao Palace and Lingjing sect finally came after them. Lang Firen had no intention of entangled with them. The top priority is to quickly control Yu Qingling's departure. Where there is life, there is hope. In Chapter 13 of the Bright Moon chapter, she has not thoroughly studied and understood that the demon sect has suffered great trauma this time. It is not a wise choice to continue fighting. You fools, just wait. She raised Yu Qingling with one hand and said impatiently, "Hold me and run away." Yu Qingling's black hair hung down on his face, with a few strands sticking to the corners of his mouth. Mixed with the dirty soil, he looked like a fairy who had fallen into the quagmire. He looked at the stars in the distance, and among them was the saint he admired. He knew this was his only chance to escape. Buddha A. He closed his eyes in pain, picked up Lang Firen, and flew away into the sky. It seemed that it was impossible to seize this opportunity. Just after Yu Qingling and Lang Firen left, 10 monks landed next to the pit with overwhelming murderous intent. The first woman was an extremely handsome woman. She was wearing a long turquoise dress and a light green ink decoration on her clothes, which looked like raindrops. She held a simple sword in her hand and looked very heroic. When she landed in the big pit, the woman who was as clean as a green bamboo didn't care about the filth at all. She knelt down on one knee and carefully surveyed the scene. No one around me dared to disturb him. It wasn't until she slowly stood up that a woman in yellow came over to help her clean the dirt from her knees. The woman in yellow asked softly, "Qingyu, did you find anything?" Yaoqi Saint Lin Qingyu looked at the sky, raised her slender and thick eyebrows, and said seriously, "The immortal lord has been here, but the demon sect's empress escaped." "Escaped? How is this possible?" For a moment, everyone whispered in surprise. The immortal lord of the Tai realm of heavenly cultivation has obviously caught up with the empress of the demon cult, and he is still an earthly cultivator of the Sifang realm who has run out of gas. How can she escape? The woman in yellow had a worried look on her face. Qing Yu, how about the immortal lord? It can be seen that she cares more about Yu Qingling. Lin Qingyu remained silent, and after a while, she said in a comforting tone, Li Xing, don't worry, the immortal lord is still in the heavenly cultivation realm, and he also has a mortal enemy with the demon sect empress, so he should be fine of. That's good, that's good. Huang Lixing, the senior sister of Lingjing sect, patted her chest and comforted herself. This team found no other clues and had no choice but to go back and report to the two leaders. Yunlin Mountain is managed by Yu Qingling's female disciple Su Mushui. As long as the empress is absent, the demon sect will be leaderless. However, when the three sects took action, the demon cult disciples seemed to have been commanded by the empress, and everyone gave up resistance and only focused on escaping for their lives. As a result, 70% of the 100,000 demon sect members escaped. They all rushed towards the junction of Dongzhou and Beizhou. It was deserted, but there were still ruins of the demon sect, the land of 9 netherworlds. The East continent is very large, and there are many different forces on the mountaintops. The three sects can encircle and suppress the demon sect, but they cannot cross a continent to conquer the demon sect. Then this encirclement and suppression incident really comes to an end. However, as the main force of the famous decent sect, Yu Qingling, who determines the outcome of the battlefield, disappeared. For a time, there were different opinions. And in the land of Juyu, in the deepest and darkest dungeon, a thin body just hung in the air. Yu Qingling raised her arms high, with green dragon tendon ropes hanging from her wrists, and was hung in the cell. His white clothes had already lost a little bit of white, and they were like a piece of rag hanging on his body. His bun was already in a mess, and dark clouds hung down, half blocking his pretty face. Even from a close distance, it was difficult to tell whether he was a man or a woman. The young immortal lord was locked in a dark dungeon without even a jailer. He can't escape. As one of the 4 ferocious beasts, Qinglong's tendons can restrain the spiritual energy of monks. Once bound by dragon tendons, only a saint can break it. Yu Qingling is really inferior to immortal now. But that's not the worst. All suffering can be overcome as long as there is hope. Yu Qingling now sadly discovered that he was about to face one or countless hardships because he couldn't see any hope. Along the way, he finally realized what Lang Firen had done to him. He now feels like a joke. Chanu Immortal Techniques is such a perfect set of immortal techniques, it's like an encyclopedia, how could it not have any flaws? The flaw is that the monks who practice this immortal method will be completely controlled by the master of Qingyu sect. As long as the other party has practiced chapter 13 of the Mingyu chapter, he can easily enter his 3-inch spiritual platform in front of him and do whatever he wants to his nascent soul. Yu Qingling's nascent soul is extremely powerful and cannot be damaged by any spiritual consciousness. But his body will be affected. The feeling conveyed to him by Yuan Shen was 100 times stronger. Chanu, haha, Yu Qingling laughed to herself. Now I finally understand the meaning of this word. The moon is also known as Chanwan, and the demon sect is also known as Qingyuman. Does Na Ti Chanu mean that it is ready to come out? What else is there to practice? Even if he cultivates to a saint, becomes an emperor, and meets Lang Firen, he will still be manipulated. One thing brings down another, this is all calculated. Therefore, he has no hope at all. A born slave, no matter what he does, he will never escape in the end. Snapped. Ah, help, I want to see the elder. I want to see the empress. Yu Qingling's ears were very sensitive, and he could hear the cries and wailings of the prisoners on the floor above or above. But there wasn't even a mouse on his level. In the 9 Netherlands, the deepest part of the dungeon, there was no life left except for him. According to the time he calculated in his mind, he had been detained here for 2 days. Lang Firen summoned the demon sect disciples to come here, and they probably have a lot to do. This time they were surrounded and suppressed by the decent faction. In addition to being unable to defeat them head-on, various spies also appeared in the demon sect. Lang Firen wanted to rectify Qingyuman bit by bit. She couldn't fall into the same pit twice. Yu Qingling also figured out the flaw in Chan New Immortal Technique in these 2 days. A faint scent of fragrance penetrated into his nostrils. Yu Qingling raised her eyelids for a moment, then lowered them again. The Empress finally arrived. She spent these 2 days to find the spy and take good care of herself. Now, it's time to deal with him. Lang Firen had already put on neat red clothes, which made her skin look like snow. She came to the outside of Yu Qingling's cell with an air of nobility, her hands still crossed in front of her abdomen. Naturally, there were various servants behind her, but they didn't dare to look up. This is the deepest part of the dungeon. It is said that the prisoners held here are guilty of losing their heads just by knowing their names. Everyone get down. Lang Firen waved her hand. The servants quickly left this wrong place. Lang Firen opened the cell door. There was no lock on the door. If the Qinglong tendons can't lock Yu Qingling, then what's the use of the lock on the door? She just came to Yu Qingling, stretched out her white hand, and brushed the messy hair in front of Yu Qingling's face without any disdain. Look at how sloppy you look, you don't care about your image at all. Lang Firen was like a master, blaming his apprentice. Yu Qingling said softly, "Can I move?" Giggle, that's what you said. Lang Firen hid her mouth and smiled, but then she stretched out her hand and pointed it at Yu Qingling's face. "Pa, it's a slap, you dare to question me?" Lang Firen raised her eyebrows and said coldly. Yu Qingling's face was slapped with a beautiful slap mark. He tilted his head and finally stopped talking. "Nothing to say. If you say anything you will get beaten. But, to this Tsundere Empress, you don't say anything, right? Not speaking is also wrong." Snapped. Another slap. "Why are not you talking? Could it be that you still want me to get into your belly and play with you, master?" Quote. Although Lang Firen's words were cold, her eyes were as eager as fire. She was eager to try it out and wanted to play in Yu Qingling's 3-inch spiritual platform. Thinking about the pure and handsome Yuanxian, it feels like a piece of nephrite. Ice and cold, comfortable and cute. Hurry up, my master misses him so much. Yu Qingling didn't want to suffer anymore, so he could only say in a low voice, "Master, are you here? Have you dealt with everything? Have you recovered well?" After being asked 3 questions by Yu Qingling, Lang Firen's enthusiasm was also dampened. This is business, and she is more or less ambitious. She replied calmly, "My body has recovered, but there is something fun. Do you want to play?" Yu Qingling raised her head feebly. He looked at his wrist, which was already bloodless due to the Qinglong tendons. "That's it, what else is there to do?" Lang Firen didn't take it seriously. She used the magic voice to convey, "Bring the person here." Not long after, I saw 2 guards dragging a dying woman in. Huden. This woman was thrown at Yu Qingling's feet. The guard left quickly. Yu Qingling lowered her head and looked at the woman. There were not many injuries on her body, but her chest was bleeding. It was obvious that she was seriously injured and would not live long. Lang Firen lightly kicked the woman with her toes and said calmly, "Lingjing sect spies came here without doing their duty and wanted to assassinate me. Speaking of which, she has a pretty high status in Lingjing sect. She is the sister of their head, named Huang Xinyan. By the way, do you know the name of the head of Lingjing sect?" Quote. Yu Qingling. Lingfei Fairy Huang Xining is in the Blue Sea realm. He looked at Huang Xinyan and was secretly surprised. The secret agent sent by Lingjing sect has such a high status. If he is caught now, he will probably die. He sighed softly and couldn't bear to look. The demon sect and the decent sect were fighting back and forth, resulting in numerous casualties, and he could not save them. Ahem, Lang Firen, you have done so many evil things, you will not die a good death. Huang Xinyan's time was running out, but she used her last strength to curse Lang Firen. It can be seen that their 2 families are already fighting to the death. Lang Firen was furious instantly. The Empress of the demon cult is naturally moody. She lowered her head and originally thought of reaching out to grab Huang Xinyan's hair, but when she saw her embarrassed look, she withdrew her hand in disgust. She said coldly, "I don't want to die well." "You don't want to die well, right? He's a loser, he just does his job well as a spy, but he also engages in assassination. Your sister slapped me, I stabbed you, and we finally paid it off." Quote. She looked up at Yu Qingling and found that he closed his eyes tightly, obviously not wanting to see the tragic situation in front of him. Lang Firen smiled playfully, and with a movement of air, Yu Qingling fell off the dragon tendon. He was not mentally prepared, so he sat directly on the ground. Before he could ask any questions, Lang Firen threw a dagger to him. The dagger was not an ordinary thing, with a faintly shining gem set at the end. Lang Firen said playfully, "Kill her." Yu Qingling took a deep breath and held the dagger without moving. Lang Firen knew he was like this, so she squatted in front of him and reached out to grab his collar. "I asked you to kill her." Yu Qingling did not dare to look directly into Lang Firen's eyes, but he still mustered up the courage to refute. "Master, I can't do it. Are you thinking about your famous and upright Lin Qingyu? You are afraid that if you kill her and get stained with Lingjing sect's blood, Yao Palace will ignore you, right?" Lang Firen saw through his thoughts. Yu Qingling remained silent. He was just kind-hearted and didn't want to kill anyone. But Lang Firen did not continue to force him. She just stretched out her hand and said with a threatening look, "Forget it, give me your hosta and I won't force you." Yu Qingling looked at her master in despair, while the other person looked at him with raised eyebrows. Yu Qingling lost, and he didn't have much leverage to negotiate. He tremblingly took out the hosta and handed it to Lang Firen again. "Humph, you are indecisive. Even if you don't kill her, she won't survive. It's better to give her a good time." Quote. Lang Firen sneered. She reached out and touched Yu Qingling's face again, and said with a smile, "I'm going to refine your jade hairpin. I won't be able to give it to anyone else. I'll come back to you later. We haven't done it yet. Let start playing. Eh?" She was in a good mood and left quickly. She walked out and stretched out her hand. Dragon tendons surrounded the cell. "It seems that she really cares about this hosta." Yu Qingling looked at the dying Huang Xinyan in front of him. He was helpless and could only put her in a position sadly, letting her head rest on his knees, trying to make her breathe easier. He said softly, "Huang Fairy, I can't save you." Huang Xinyan's pretty face is pale. She looks noble and elegant, with a round and amiable face. She looks like a gentle ant. She also knew that she was going to die soon. She held Yu Qingling's hand tightly with one hand and said quietly, "My child, I don't blame you. Ahem, I just can't complete my sister's mission." The demon cult was driven to the 9 Netherlands. No matter what, it is considered a great achievement. Fairy Huang, please don't blame yourself too much. Hey, that's good. Hey, I really want to see the peach blossoms on Lingjing Mountain. I miss my silly niece so much. I miss my sister so much. Huang Xinyan is on her deathbed. It seems that none of her wishes can be fulfilled. Yu Qingling only felt that her lips were dead and her teeth were cold, and it would be his turn to suffer next. But at this moment, Yu Qingling suddenly thought of a spell in the Chanu Immortal technique. When a monk is about to die, she can place her spiritual consciousness on a magic weapon. Very few people know this kind of mentality, and even if someone does, it will be regarded as an evil practice. After all, death is like a lamp going out, and trapping a person's soul in a magic weapon is contrary to nature. Moreover, if the spiritual consciousness does not go away, then won't you think about seizing the body next? That is even more evil. But how can Yu Qingling care about this at this time? He couldn't see hope, so he didn't want Huang Xinyan to die so soon. Otherwise, he would really be in the dark. "I'm sorry, Fairy Huang. The green dragon tendons are tied to a cell. In this cell, Yu Qingling can return to the realm of heavenly cultivation." He saw the dagger. This is the Empress's weapon, it must be a magic weapon. He began to exercise his power. Call. Huang Xinyan's dissipating consciousness was withdrawn from her broken body, and before she could think about it, she got into the dagger. Yu Qingling looked at Huang Xinyan's body and chanted again. "Feel sorry." He picked up the dagger and plunged it into Huang Xinyan's body. Afterwards, Yu Qingling banged on the cell door. "Come here, someone is dead, throw the body out." Yu Qingling couldn't care less about communicating with Huang Xinyan. The Empress will arrive soon. Once she discovers the consciousness on the dagger, the consequences will be disastrous. Only by the jailer collecting the body and throwing Huang Xinyan's body out could she escape from here temporarily. As for after leaving, Yu Qingling couldn't think that far ahead. Following his padding, 2 guards came over as expected. "This is what the Empress brought here just now." It seemed that the Empress really went out for a short while, otherwise no one would have responded to Yu Qingling deep in the dungeon. The two guards did not dare to look at Yu Qingling. They pulled Huang Xinyan's body out through the Qinglong tendon. This corpse was a spy of the demon cult. He didn't even bother to lift it, so he just pulled her legs out. There was also a dark red blood stain left on the ground. The two of them whispered quietly as they walked. Hey, isn't this the little immortal from Yunlin Mountain? Was he really captured by our demon cult? Immortal Lord, when Her Majesty the Empress is done with her work, this immortal lord will come to an end. Their voices gradually drifted away. Yu Qingling sat helplessly on the ground in a daze. What will happen to Huang Xinyan next? He is still helpless. What should I do? Yu Qingling looked up the information in her mind. There was all kinds of knowledge in Chanu Immortal Technique. It even includes the entire content of Qingfeng Mingyu Ju. Yu Qingling read it carefully, and finally found the 13th chapter of the Mingyu chapter. But after he finished reading it, he felt extremely hopeless. The cultivation rules set by Empress Qingyu really have no loopholes. The practitioners who practice the Chan Nu Immortal Technique work for the Qingyu sect. Want to run? Absolutely impossible. The only way is to seal the 3-inch spiritual platform. But the consequence is that during the isolation period, he will lose his cultivation and return to immortal. If you want to open it, it will take a month. But in this dungeon, what difference does it make whether he is immortal or not? It's just a more miserable death. Moreover, the more Yu Qingling watched Mingyu, the more frightened she became. The Empress, consciousness can enter his 3-inch spiritual platform and manipulate his soul at will. This is just the simplest method of control. There are various refining abilities at the back, and he can even be used as a cauldron. As long as the Empress does a little experiment, he, Yu Qingling, will just have to wait and suffer. Lang Firen must not be allowed to study further. Yu Qingling made up her mind that even if she was killed by this demon sect Empress, she would not become her puppet. Seal the 3-inch spiritual platform. Yu Qingling heard the Empress' footsteps. He made a prompt decision and chose to proclaim himself a cultivator. Ahem. When the Empress came to the door, she heard Yu Qingling's weak coughing. She was slightly startled. What happened? Is he sick? Can the immortal lord of heavenly cultivation realm also get sick? Fortunately, Yu Qingling only choked. He raised his eyes to look at Lang Firen, quietly waiting for her decision. Lang Firen was in a good mood. She saw that Huang Xinyan's body was no longer in the cell and knew that this man was dead. As for the dagger, she didn't bother to ask. Yu Qingling didn't have the guts to hide the murder weapon. Even if he did, it would be useless. She walked in directly, touched the hosta on her head, and smiled sweetly. Does it look good? Lang Firen's beauty is heavenly, and her bright red clothes have already enhanced her empress temperament. With all the jewels on her head, such a jade hairpin is inconspicuous. But she just felt happy. I was also excited to ask how Yu Qingling was doing. Yu Qingling whispered, "It's quite beautiful. If you don't say this, you will suffer physical pain." Lang Firen was even happier. She didn't care about the image of the Empress at all. She squatted in front of him and said like a spoiled child, "No, please say a few more words. I want to hear you praise me." Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. I'm stupid." Lang Firen's eyebrows furrowed. For just a moment, her mood became bad. "It's cloudy and sunny, that's how it is." She stood up and looked at Yu Qingling condescendingly. "You just don't want to praise me, do you?" As soon as she raised her leg, her long and straight thigh stepped on Yu Qingling's shoulder, making Yu Qingling's body sink. "Look at the mess you live in. My shoes are all dirty. What should you do?" Lang Firanfang narrowed her eyes and her tone became dangerous. Yu Qingling lowered her head, bit her lip, and hesitated. "Speak." Lang Firen pushed hard with her heel, and Yu Qingling was kicked down. Lang Firen smiled slightly. She liked Yu Qingling's entangled look. "I want to resist but I can't. I want to try but it's too shameful." With such a tangled expression, he was extremely annoyed at the end. "Little immortal lord of Yunlin Mountain, you are so cute." Yu Qingling lowered her eyebrows and whispered softly, "I'll wipe it for you." Lang Firen lifted up her skirt, revealing her snow-white stockings. Red shoes and white stockings, as pretty as flowers. "You're getting an advantage. Quote. Omit 10,000 words. Yu Qingling, are you too courageous? Lang Firen crossed her legs and sat on Yu Qingling's back. She played with his hair with one hand and said in a cold tone. Yu Qingling was kneeling on the ground. His arms were sore, but he didn't dare to complain at all. When he heard Lang Firen's words, he remained silent. Lang Firen had already noticed that he had blocked the 3-inch spiritual platform. Conflict was inevitable, he had to get through it. Lang Firen didn't get up and just sat there. She said sarcastically, "If you are so eager to cut off the soul, won't your cultivation level be gone? Then after all, aren't you still living in this dungeon? Just to prevent me from touching your soul." Quote, Yu Qingling lowered her head and murmured, "The Empress can do whatever she wants, but that way, I really can't bear it." Hee. Lang Firen laughed strangely, stood up, looked at Yu Qingling who was kneeling on the ground as a bench and said, "You have made the decision without permission, so you can continue to rot in this dungeon." After saying that, she was about to get up and leave. But at this moment, Yu Qingling suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He couldn't hold it back for a while and smiled softly. But then, he realized his gaffe and quickly turned into a cough. However, the Empress has turned her head. She narrowed her phoenix eyes and said indifferently, "Hey, are you still smiling? Are you so happy when I leave?" Yu Qingling quickly put her head on the ground and said, "The Empress atones, I just coughed." "You think I'm deaf?" Lang Firen refused to leave. She squatted in front of Yu Qingling again. Looking at the young man's slender waist, she suddenly had other thoughts. This traitor has already sealed his 3-inch spiritual platform. He is a useless person. There is no point in staying in this dungeon anymore. Ida's quite troublesome to run here every day. Why not take him to the boudoir? Just do it. Lang Firen was not an indecisive person. She waved her hand and the dragon tendons flew over, got into Yu Qingling's clothes, and tied his acupuncture points. Then, she stood up and said, "Come with me. You are a useless person anyway. When you get to the top, I will take care of you." Yu Qingling's body tensed up instantly. Thissa. If she followed Lang Firen to her boudoir, would she still be alive? "Your Majesty the Empress, I feel fine here." "Here. Huh, if you think it's good, then it's bad. Let's go." Lang Firen grabbed her hand, and the dragon's tendons contracted tightly, causing Yu Qingling's pain. Yu Qingling was about to cry but had no tears, so she followed Lang Firen out of the dungeon. The deepest dungeons are deathly silent. Walking up, you can hear the miserable wailing. "Does it sound good?" Lang Firen asked expressionlessly. Yu Qingling lowered her eyebrows and said submissively, "It doesn't sound good." Giggle, "Don't call me that in the future." Lang Firen reminded her with a meaningful smile. Yu Qingling felt horrified. What on earth was she going to do? They finally got out of prison. A ray of sunlight shone on Yu Qingling's face, and he couldn't help but close his eyes. "The air outside the dungeon is really good." Lang Firen looked at Yu Qingling in the sun. She was wearing a dirty white robe, messy hair, and her face was black and white. Even so, under the sunlight, it looked like beautiful jade. "It's just a little dirty, just give it a wash." She was not in a hurry. It wasn't until Yu Qingling got used to the environment outside the dungeon that she calmly walked ahead. Yu Qingling looked around. He discovered that this was the top of the mountain. Unexpectedly, the demon cult's dungeon is based on a mountain. Just 10 meters away is the cliff. That's the Guiwei Cliff. Anyone who dies in the dungeon will be thrown directly into it. The Huang Xinyan you just killed must have reached the bottom, right? Lang Firen said sarcastically. Yu Qingling looked at the cliff, a feeling of sadness and anger welling up in her heart. Why did he have to go through the misery that followed? Either being treated as a plaything or being treated as a puppet. The stagnation in his heart was incomprehensible, and two white mist rose up from his eyes like water waves. Crying, Lang Firen looked at him in surprise. It was fine when she kissed the socks just now. Now that she has seen the sun, why is she crying? Lang Firen, you win. Yu Qingling said this in despair. He turned around and rushed towards Guiwei Cliff without hesitation. Death is just a matter of a moment. Stop it. Lang Firen didn't expect his attitude to be so decisive. Just for a moment, Yu Qingling jumped off the cliff. Lang Firen flew up like a bolt of lightning and rushed towards her. But Guiwei Cliff towered into the clouds, and Yu Qingling fell into the white clouds for a while, unable to see anyone at all. Lang Firen was instantly frightened and broke into a cold sweat. Yu Qingling must not die. She seemed to be going crazy, flying through the clouds and rushing down. Then he saw Yu Qingling falling to the ground like a snowflake. She speeded up and rushed straight away. Yu Qingling had closed her eyes. If you die, just die. But before Lang Firen could catch up, a ray of divine consciousness rushed into his chest. It was a familiar feeling. Yu Qingling unconsciously prepared to open the 3-inch spiritual platform. But after sealing the spiritual platform, it will take at least a month to open it. Forcibly opening it in this way can only open a small gap, but it cannot restore the cultivation level. But this small gap was enough, and the divine consciousness got directly into it. At the same time, Lang Firen had arrived beside him. She reached out and hugged his slim waist. Lang Firen felt the heavy force of the fall, and waved down with her other hand. A powerful force surged down. Boom! After the force of the fall was offset, Lang Firen hugged Yu Qingling and jumped into the air. Isn't it easy for the Empress to save Immortal? The two of them disappeared under the cliff in an instant. The days passed quickly. After experiencing the battle between good and evil factions, Dongzhou finally returned to peace. The demon cult has escaped to the 9 Netherlands, like a wounded beast, hiding here to lick its wounds and recuperate. The Qingyu sect gradually began daily activities such as production and cultivation. The land of Juyu is relatively barren, but there are also 3/10 less disciples of the demon sect. With the increase of income and expenditure, everyone can live peacefully. Let's wait for a while before talking. Wait until you have the opportunity to talk about revenge. The disciples all returned to their normal lives, except the Empress who became reclusive. The demon sect Saint Shen Rongrong naturally saw it. She is Lang Firen's direct disciple. She can be said to be inferior to 1 person and superior to 10,000 people. Now that Master has something going on, she naturally wants to come over and ask. Shen Rongrong is now in the Earth Cultivation Mountain Tomb realm, and can be regarded as an outstanding disciple of the Qingyu sect. She held a dark sword in her hand and wore black martial arts uniforms. Dressed in plain black, she looked majestic. There is only a red hairband, the only color, tied with a flowing ponytail, giving her a rare touch of charm. She arrived outside the small courtyard where the master lived, opened the door, and saw the master sitting on a bamboo chair in the courtyard, with a Taoist boy with a low eyebrow standing next to him. Lang Firen was wearing a white dress, her hair was draped smoothly over her shoulders, without too many decorations. On her feet are a pair of clean clogs. Her whole person actually exuded a calm temperament, which had nothing to do with the killing and decisiveness of the demon sect Empress. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Shen Rongrong wouldn't have believed that this was her master, Her Majesty the Empress who controlled the demon sect. Rongrong is here. Lang Firen saw her disciple, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. She waved her hand, and the boy next to her moved over to bring a bamboo chair and placed it next to her. Sit down. They gave me some melon seeds, caramel flavor, you can try them too. She said to her disciple dotingly. Shen Rongrong sat respectfully next to her, took the melon seeds she handed over, and put them in the palm of his hand, naturally not daring to taste them rashly. Shen Rongrong said with some confusion, Master, the disciples have not been able to see you these days, and they are all very concerned about you. Silly. Shen Rongrong frowned and looked at the boy, only to see him peeling melon seeds with a low eyebrow. Put the peeled melon seeds in a small bowl. When the melon seeds are almost collected, the master will eat them in one bite. What's there to worry about? We've all been rushed here, why bother? Let us recuperate first, and then we can fight back in a few years. Quote. Lang Firen said impatiently. The disciples of Qingyu sect are really members of the demon sect, and they cannot be idle even for a day. I feel uncomfortable all over when I am idle. This is not possible. To practice, you need to calm down. Just take this opportunity to sharpen the spirit of the disciples. Then, Master, let's not attack the surrounding sects next time. Let's expand our territory and complete our hegemony. Shen Rongrong looked at the master eagerly, with a look of disbelief on his face. Lang Firen said, What are you attacking? What are around you? They are all ferocious beasts. Conscientiously reclaim wasteland, plant spiritual herbs, and work hard to meditate. This is the most important thing. Okay, go back. Look at how impetuous you are now, how can you still look like a saint? Quote. Shen Rongrong didn't say anything more. Since the master had chosen the direction, she would just follow it and be done with it. Before she left, she took one more look at the boy. Qingjun's face was full of sadness, and although he lowered his eyebrows to please his eyes, it looked like he was being forced. Master is now robbing young men from good families. Isn't she addicted to male gender? Is our Qingyu sect going to perish? Quote, Shen Rongrong was shocked. But she didn't dare to say anything, so she just resigned. After leaving the yard, Shen Rongrong always felt something was wrong. This boy looked so familiar. She suddenly remembered that 5 years ago, Master took in a male disciple who was so stunning. This junior brother is not simple. He looked Wen Wen and Liang Liang on weekdays, but a year later he defected and became the little immortal of Yunlin Mountain. This junior brother also participated in this battle between good and evil. Buddha A. Will the immortal lord in the heavenly cultivation realm serve the master here? The more Shen Rongrong thought about it, the stranger he felt. She decided she would have a chance to observe it later. Watching her apprentice leave, Lang Firen put the melon seeds into her mouth and seemed to be talking to herself. Hey, the development of Qingyu sect has indeed gone awry. Fighting and killing is not the right way. Is it right? She looked at Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling said nothing and continued to peel melon seeds with her head down. Oh, look, you're not talking anymore. Come on, sit over here. Lang Firen grabbed Yu Qingling's arm and pulled him into her arms. There was a wicked smile on her pretty face, and one hand hooked Yu Qingling's pointed chin. Come on, little immortal lord, give the devil a smile. Yu Qingling took a deep breath and turned his head away, ignoring her. What, if you don't eat the toast, you will be fined with wine. Lang Firen's patience is quite limited. Once you resist even a little bit, she will instantly become cold. Yu Qingling pondered for a moment. No. If not, who are you showing this stinky face to? Lang Firen hugged his waist tightly, just to make him feel the difference in status. The corners of Yu Qingling's mouth moved, and he could only smile softly. The smile disappeared instantly, showing how perfunctory he was. Lang Firen saw that he was giving her face, so she didn't pursue the matter further. What's there to argue with a pet? The days are long, and no matter how stubborn Yu Qingling is, if she endures for 100 years, she will become a soft-hearted person. She patted Yu Qingling on the back and said, I won't bother you anymore. Go and wash my clothes. If Yu Qingling was granted amnesty, he breathed a long sigh of relief and finally got off Lang Firen. He quickly went inside to pack his clothes and took the tub to the backyard. There was a sweet well there for washing clothes. In fact, monks can use a spell to clean clothes. But Lang Firen felt that it would be cleaner to let Yu Qingling wash it by hand. Yu Qingling quickly fetched water, moved a small bench, found a washboard, and washed the clothes with cloth. No one would have thought that the famous little immortal lord in the Four Realms continent would be in the backyard of the demon sect Empress, washing her clothes with his sleeves rolled up. After washing for a while, he felt his waist was sore. He was just a young man without cultivation. He straightened his body simply, patted his waist, rubbed his forehead with the back of one hand, and a few locks of hair stuck to Ryu's face. Make him look like a pretty little maid. This is not because his back muscles are weak, but mainly because he has overused his waist in the past half-month. But while he was working hard, a voice suddenly appeared in his heart. Your name is Yu Qingling. Are you the immortal lord of Yunlin Mountain? Yu Qingling was slightly startled. I looked around and saw nothing. I am in your 3-inch spiritual platform. I am Huang Xinyan who you saved. The voice was erratic, obviously talking to him through his spiritual consciousness. Yu Qingling was shocked. He quickly lowered his head and continued to rub his clothes, for fear of being discovered by the Empress. Then he began to look inwards. Sure enough, in the 3-inch spiritual platform that had been sealed by a spell, a mature and beautiful woman was sitting quietly next to his jade-like Yuanshan. Yu Qingling just wanted to faint. What is going on? Why was Huang Xinyan locked inside the 3-inch spiritual platform? How on earth did she get in? Huang Fairy, you, just be fine. Yu Qingling suddenly remembered that when she jumped off the cliff that day, a familiar consciousness rushed to her body. At that time, because he was about to die, he subconsciously forced himself to open a small corner of the 3-inch spiritual platform, and this weak spiritual consciousness got in. There has been no movement for the past half-month. Unexpectedly, it was Huang Xinyan. Huang Xinyan smiled and said, "Little immortal lord, I have to thank you. Thanks to your resourcefulness, you deceived the Empress. After I fell off the cliff, my body was hanging on a branch. I suddenly felt your arrival and escaped from the dagger. I have also benefited a lot from being next to your soul these days. My consciousness has been cultivated, and my ability to speak has been restored." Quote. After saying that, she looked curiously at Yuanxin, who was meditating. Fortunately, she is a righteous person and knows that the soul cannot be touched at will. Otherwise, Yu Qingling would be unable to control her paralysis. Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. "Huang Fairy, you have made a wrong move. If you can possess birds and beasts, you can at least escape from the demon cult. Now enter my body. I can't even get out myself." Quote. Huang Xinyan smiled and said, "It doesn't matter, in Xiao Shanzun's heart, I feel very comfortable." After saying that, the beautiful woman was still a little shy. Yu Qingling's heart is full of spiritual energy. When she meditates here, she can feel her cultivation improve. She blinked her almond-shaped eyes and said softly, "Xiao Shanzun, I have heard about your deeds. Speaking of which, are you the same generation as my niece? It is true that a hero comes from a boy." Quote. Alas, Fairy Huang. Yu Qingling sighed, unable to look back on the past. "What are you doing with these? Xiao Shanzun, you can call me sister from now on, or, you can also call me aunt." Huang Xinyan summoned up the courage and suggested gently. Yu Qingling had no choice but to say, "Aunt Yan, now we are trapped here, I really want to die." "Don't talk nonsense. How can you, a good boy like you, die just because you want to? Isn't it just a little insult? There will always be a turn for the better. Auntie will stay with you from now on, okay?" Quote. Huang Xinyan quickly coaxed him. Regardless of Xiao Shanzun's strong cultivation, according to his age, he is just a child who has not grown up. Huang Xinyan was firstly grateful for his life-saving grace, and secondly, she was inspired by him to feel a touch of motherly love. Huang Xinyan has never been married and has no children. Among the younger generation, only Huang Lixing is her closest relative. "Now that I can't see my niece, and Yu Qingling saved her, I naturally give all my love to Yu Qingling." Some soft words of encouragement reached Yu Qingling's ears. After hearing Huang Xinyan's words, Yu Qingling finally felt a little better. In a desperate situation, having someone to encourage you and having no one to encourage you are two different things. At least he felt a little more comfortable. He rubbed his clothes gently and said, "Okay, then I'll listen to my aunt." Yu Qingling couldn't find anyone to talk to, so he chatted with Huang Xinyan while working. The two of them were communicating with each other spiritually and remained calm. At most, Yu Qingling's expression was dull. Yu Qingling told Huang Xinyan exactly what happened. Huang Xinyan also told him how she came here to work as a spy. In one afternoon, the two of them became really close. "Qingling, if Lang Firen can control you through Qingming Fengyuju, then your situation is really dangerous. Speaking of which, it was also your fault. Cultivation has always required caution. How could you tell your own practice in front of the enemy?" Quote. Huang Xinyan also became more friendly in calling him, and was still reviewing what was right and wrong at the time. Yu Qingling also realized her carelessness. She practiced Chan New Immortal technique by herself and could not tell outsiders casually. He must remember this lesson. In half a month, your spiritual platform will have the opportunity to be opened. We must make good use of this half-month to look for opportunities. Huang Xinyan encouraged him softly. Yu Qingling instantly became energetic. With Aunt Yan guiding him, he will definitely be able to escape from here. "Auntie, what should I do?" he asked nervously. Huang Xinyan opened her mouth, not knowing how to speak. But for the sake of their freedom, she had no choice but to blush and say, "The only thing you can do now is to please Lang Firen, please her in all aspects, and make her relax her vigilance." Yu Qingling sighed. "Of course I wanted to paralyze her, but I don't know how to serve others, and I get nervous when I see women who are older than me." Quote. There was no way. Lang Firen had occupied all his time since he first came into contact with women. His concept of love is not sound, and he doesn't know how to talk to a woman from the Yuji family. By chance, the Lang Firen he met was still a yandere among royal sisters and an empress among witches. It can be regarded as being taken care of. Huang Xinyan was stunned and didn't speak. After a long time, she blushed and said, then you promise me something. Yu Qingling is folding quilts in the room. Although folding them is useless, at least it can calm down for a while. He quickly said, Auntie, I can agree to whatever you have in mind. You can't tell outsiders. Say what? Tell me. I will practice with you how to fall in love with a woman. Yu Qingling was frozen there. Even though he didn't move at all, his cheeks were still hot. Auntie, forget it, I'll try my best to please her. Huang Xinyan said unhappily. Humph, I still want to make sacrifices for you, but you still don't appreciate it. With your attitude, let alone the empress of the demon cult, even I don't want to care about you. Yu Qingling scratched her head and was at a loss. Huang Xinyan blushed and said, we are also trying to escape from the demon cult, right? Now the enemy is 10,000 times more powerful than us, so we have to be ruthless and use all possible means. Yu Qingling thought about the freedom to escape, and he said seriously, okay, I understand, then. I'll leave it to my aunt. Huang Xinyan's heart skipped a beat. Did he agree? The 19-year-old genius boy, the famous immortal lord in the Four Realms continent, actually agreed to have a simulated love relationship with him. Huang Xinyan was elated, but she had to appear calm. She had long been salivating over Yu Qingling's spirit that exuded spiritual energy. The escape plan coincides with my own idea, that is, taking into account both public and private matters. Huang Xinyan said, do you want to find a quiet place? Yu Qingling thought for a moment and looked through the window at Lang Firen, who was in a daze in the yard. He quietly came to the bookshelf in the bedroom, pressed the button, and a passage to the basement appeared. Yu Qingling quickly walked in and closed the basement door. This is the first time that he has taken the initiative to lock himself in. Yu Qingling leaned against the door in case Lang Firen didn't respond when she came to look for him. He said softly, Auntie, you start. Huang Xinyan pursed her red lips, looked at Yu Qingling, and said softly, I have never been in love with anyone, so you have to be more tolerant. Yu Qingling blushed slightly. That's natural, we are here to escape from the demon cult. Yes, then you, just hold on. Qingling, how do you feel? Huang Xinyan asked with concern. Yu Qingling's clothes were already wet with sweat, but he persisted this time. He said softly, I can resist. Huang Xinyan said guiltily. Well, this way you won't be nervous when you see Big Sister. In addition, just do as I say and try your best to please the Empress. We will work together and we will definitely be able to overcome this difficulty. Quote. Yu Qingling was also full of confidence. Okay, Aunt, you have worked hard. Huang Xinyan smiled and said, it's okay. How can such a beautiful thing be so hard? At this moment, Lang Firen's call sounded outside. Ling where are you? Yu Qingling cheered up and responded quickly. I'm in the basement. With his words, the basement door opened. Lang Firen saw Yu Qingling sitting on the steps. What are you doing here? Yu Qingling wiped the broken hair from her face, and said slightly nervously, I have nothing to do, so I came down first. After saying that, he started to get nervous. Huang Xinyan quickly cheered. It's okay, you have to hold on. Lang Firen looked at him strangely, then walked down, came to him, and bent down to look into his eyes. Huang Xinyan, don't be afraid, just look her in the eye. Yu Qingling mustered up her courage, her eyes wandering. Lang Firen smiled mischievously. You changed your gender today. Yu Qingling then said softly based on Huang Xinyan's words, this disciple knows that he has sinned deeply and is sorry for Master's cultivation and love. Now he wants to make up for his mistakes, so he took the initiative to come to the basement, hoping to get Master's forgiveness. Stop. Lang Firen didn't believe what he said at all and interrupted directly. She stretched out her fingers, pinched Yu Qingling's chin, looked left and right, and said pretending to be confused, are you not sick? You are a very delicate little mortal now. Yu Qingling took a deep breath and mustered up his courage. Ling you are playing with fire. Next is the part that everyone does not like to see. Half a month passed quickly. Yu Qingling and Huang Xinyan didn't find any chance. Lang Firen remembered the time when he blocked her spiritual platform very accurately. She had to make sure that Yu Qingling blocked it again. Otherwise, get in and deal with him. In order to prevent Huang Xinyan from being discovered, he had to renew it for another month in front of Lang Firen. Everything is back to square one. Yu Qingling now has another Huang Xinyan who needs his care. However, Yu Qingling's actions gradually relaxed. What kind of disturbance can a mortal create in the demon cult? He ran away, but could not get far. Moreover, he still had the green dragon tendons locked on his body, so there was no possibility of escaping. On this day, Yu Qingling hung around the family courtyard in the back mountain with the badge given to him by Lang Firen. You have to survey the terrain, right? After walking a few steps, he rested against the wall. Being tortured like this every day is not something a mortal body can withstand. Just as Yu Qingling was holding on to the wall and gasping for air, a slightly neutral voice sounded from behind her. Is it junior brother Yu? Yu Qingling turned around and found that it was Shen Rongrong, the devil's saint. Just as he was about to salute, Huang Xinyan said quickly, Qingling, hurry up, seduce her. Ah, Yu Qingling was slightly stunned. Seducing the devil's saint? What on earth is this ant thinking? While he was stunned, Shen Rongrong was already standing in front of him and said with a cold face, is it junior brother Yu Qingling? Yu Qingling had no choice but to salute respectfully and said, yes, hello, senior sister. Brush. Shen Rongrong's hands grabbed Yu Qingling's neck and pinned him to the wall. Yu Qingling had no ability to resist at all. He could only hold Shen Rongrong's hand tightly, hoping to push her away. But to no avail. He is not much different from an ant now. Shen Rongrong said murderously, the little immortal of Yunlin Mountain, looks so weak now. I don't dare to be your senior sister. Yu Qingling had difficulty breathing. He said in a hoarse voice, you can't kill me. Why can't I kill you? You caused our Qingyu sect to escape to the 9 Netherworld, and now, you are hanging around Master again, which can be described as a disaster. If I don't kill you, won't our Qingyu sect be doomed? Quote, Shen Rongrong hated him. The strength in his hands became stronger and stronger. Yu Qingling's hand suddenly relaxed. Forget it, let her strangle her to death. Chapter 11. Silly boy. Huang Xinyan had no choice but to give her soul a hard squeeze. Yu Qingling felt her whole body go limp, her eyes froze, and 2 tears fell uncontrollably, falling on Shen Rongrong's hand. Shen Rongrong felt a chill on the back of his hand and subconsciously let go of Yu Qingling. She looked at the tears on the back of her hands and immediately threw her hands away in disgust. What a idiot. Cry whenever you want. At the same time, Huang Xinyan also said, hurry, seduce her. Otherwise you will die. Yu Qingling seemed to have a glimmer of hope of survival. He jumped forward and hugged Shen Rongrong's thigh. Shen Rongrong is a martial arts practitioner, and these thighs are very powerful. Shen Rongrong panicked when a man hugged her leg. She pulled out her sword and put it on Yu Qingling's neck. Let go, or I'll chop your head off. Yu Qingling's eyes were filled with tears. He raised his head and looked at Shen Rongrong. Senior sister Shen, please kill me. If I can die in your hands, I will get my wish. Are you talking sweet talk again? I didn't. Yu Qingling lowered her head and endured the nausea in her heart. Ever since I entered Qingyu sect, my heart has been full of senior sister Shen, but due to the pressure of master, I had no choice but to commit myself to her. But the figure of senior sister Shen has always been in my heart. This time, I didn't take action in the siege of the demon cult. I just wanted to see senior sister Shen. The demon cult fled here, and I followed them here. Moreover, I also negotiated with master. As long as I am allowed to enter the demon sect and meet senior sister Shen, I would rather not have that kind of cultivation. I just didn't expect that master hated me so much that he trapped me in the basement without seeing the light of day, and suffered humiliation day and night. Yu Qingling burst into tears, hugged Shen Rongrong's legs and complained bitterly about her master's unkindness and injustice. Shen Rongrong was touched by his words. You know, Yu Qingling is a legendary figure in Sijingzhou. After defecting from the demon sect, it only took 3 or 4 years to reach the heavenly cultivation realm. Moreover, he was extremely handsome, and many saints and fairies in Sijingzhou wanted to marry him and become a Taoist couple. Even Shen Rongrong once thought about whether Yu Qingling would take him in if he defected from the demon cult. I just didn't expect that in just over a month, this world-famous little immortal would have lost all his cultivation. He was hugging his legs and crying next to the wall of the demon sect's family courtyard. And he also said that he likes himself. Shen Rongrong was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Does Yu Qingling like herself? Impossible. Her cheeks turned red instantly. She was naturally elated to be liked by such an outstanding man. However, the remaining calmness also told him that what he said was probably false. Shen Rongrong was in a state of confusion. She put away her black sword and moved her legs back involuntarily. Junior brother Yu, please keep your voice down. You get up first. She hurriedly helped Yu Qingling up and was stunned when she saw him crying so hard. No wonder the Empress locked him away. With this, no one in Sijingzhou could resist his charm. Yu Qingling raised her sleeves, wiped her tears, and touched her throat without trace. This fool has such strong hands, she really hated me just now. Junior brother Yu, what you said just now, didn't you lie to me? Shen Rongrong suddenly became shy, she pursed her lips and asked softly. Yu Qingling said sternly, Senior sister, how can you believe what I say? Otherwise, why would you chase me all the way here and still lose all your cultivation? Oh, what's the use of seeing me? Looking at you now, how can you look like an immortal? Shen Rongrong smiled brightly. She stretched out her hand and gently patted the soil on Yu Qingling's body. Junior brother actually likes me. He also took risks alone for himself. Yu Qingling was about to take action now. He could only say softly, for senior sister, I am willing to give up anything. Okay, stop talking, it's so embarrassing. Shen Rongrong, a martial arts cultivator, covered his face and stomped his feet shyly. The holy maiden of the devil's cult usually kills people, but where have you ever heard of these love words? Kiss her quickly. Huang Xinyan urged her with a smile like her seventh aunt and eight aunts watching the fun. This. Yu Qingling hesitated. Go quickly, Huang Xinyan said anxiously. Yu Qingling plucked up the courage. He approached the senior sister's body and gently hugged her shoulders. What are you doing? Shen Rongrong asked nervously. Her breathing became rapid, wondering what this junior brother was going to do. Senior sister, I will continue to be trapped by Master soon. Before we say goodbye, please let me get what I want, okay? Yu Qingling seemed to be reciting her lines. But this is enough for a saint who has never been in love. Shen Rongrong remained motionless. Yu Qingling lowered her head and kissed her gently. Sister, please remember to visit me more often. Yu Qingling separated after a kiss, and he left lonely. Shen Rongrong looked at his thin back, and his happy mood suddenly sank. What's the use of being happy? Master has already cut off the beard. For a moment, Shen Rongrong actually had the idea of rushing over and running away with Yu Qingling. But just ideas. The gap between her and the Empress is really huge. Yu Qingling escaped from Shen Rongrong's sight and finally gasped for air. Oh my god, I almost died here. I can't wander around in the future. Who knows who in the demon cult still hates me? Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. This is also a reward. This girl will definitely take care of you in the future. I know her. When Huang Xinyan was working as a spy here, she had conducted investigations on people in the demon cult. There is a portrait of Yu Qingling hidden in Shen Rongrong's boudoir. However, that was the immortal lord of the Tai realm of heavenly cultivation who was above 10,000 people. Not the prison slave in the basement now. Some women like strong men, like Shen Rongrong, who has no resistance to strong men and is willing to be a concubine or a child. But some women like weaklings, such as Leng Firen. She is already strong enough. As long as she has a man in her hands, she will be quite satisfied. But no matter what they like, Yu Qingling has to plan how to escape. By the end of the month, he had to seize the opportunity. To escape, two conditions need to be met. First, he had to open the 3-inch spiritual platform and restore his cultivation. Second, he had to remove the green dragon tendons on his body. Both are indispensable. It takes time to open the spiritual platform. To remove the green dragon tendon, you will need help from others. Huang Xinyan told him that the Qinglong Jin was a magic weapon of the demon cult, and only 2 people in the entire demon cult could use it. One is the Empress, the other one is the Saint. The Saint is the eldest disciple trained by the Empress, and will take over the Empress's position in the future. Of course she has permission to use it. However, how to get Shen Rongrong to help him escape is not an easy task. In the next month, Yu Qingling will become a charming social butterfly. It is very difficult for a mouse to escape from a cat's mouth, especially since this mouse fell into the cat's lair. After the incident involving the demon saint, Yu Qingling decided that from now on she would just stay in the Empress's courtyard and not go anywhere. But Huang Xinyan told him that he must not give up eating because of choking. He had to use positive and full emotions to fight for a chance of survival for himself. Yu Qingling had no other choice, and his performance was getting better and better. The beautiful little immortal is now as docile as a little rabbit. Every day she serves Lang Firen with her food and daily life, washing and cooking, dressing up the Empress, and serving her from the inside out without any flaws. At first, Lang Firen wanted to see his sincerity, but later she became addicted to the gentleness and wealth of the country. What else is there to see? No matter from any angle, Yu Qingling had no hope of escaping. Lang Firen gradually became too lazy to care about him. This is a habit, and habits can lower people's vigilance. Lang Firen doesn't have much ambition now, and the demon cult needs to cultivate and thrive. She also needs to relax herself. In the past, Qingyu sect's model was too radical, and it always made enemies from all sides, and finally became the target of public criticism. The good Qingyu sect was dubbed the demon cult. She still felt quite majestic at the time. Once she wears the phoenix crown and harem, she becomes the empress of the demon sect. Now it seems that the first shot is the first. You have to keep a low profile while practicing. Therefore, Lang Firen began to focus on the production work of the sect. She is not what Shen Rongrong thought, addicted to male gender and unable to extricate herself. After Lang Firen felt that she had successfully transformed Yu Qingling, she began to transform Qingyu sect. During the day, she would supervise various tasks. With the supervision of the Empress, all kinds of work such as land reclamation, alchemy, formations, equipment manufacturing, etc. are flourishing. Qingyu sect has shown signs of recovery. The Empress regained her ability. But the saint became confused. She is now keeping an eye on Lang Firen's movements every day. As long as she is not around, she will immediately sneak into the master's yard and have a tryst with Yu Qingling. She hated Yu Qingling until her teeth started to itch, but now she also realizes the sweetness of love. It turns out that being with the person you like makes you really happy. Today is no exception. Shen Rongrong followed Yu Qingling, watching him doing housework while talking excitedly. Master, she has been working very seriously recently. The whole Qingyu sect has been adjusted very smoothly. I see, it won't be long before this. The barren Juyu land must also be turned into a paradise. Junior brother Yu, what do you think? Quote, she just wanted to hear what Yu Qingling had to say. Yu Qingling is packing Lang Firen's jewelry box. The demon empress has too many jewelry, and if she doesn't take care of them every day, they will become a mess. If Lang Firen can't find the jewelry she wants, then Yu Qingling will suffer. He kept moving his hands and said with a smile on his face, Master, she is indeed very capable. After saying this, there was a trace of sadness on his face. Master is so capable. Shen Rongrong noticed her sweetheart's sorrow, so she came over very considerately and held Yu Qingling's hand. Junior brother Yu, don't be too upset, wait. When will you wait? When Master abdicates, will you be able to rescue me? Yu Qingling was a little irritated. He took his hand out, his pretty face full of disappointment. Seeing the loss of her sweetheart, Shen Rongrong felt very uncomfortable. She fell in love with someone she shouldn't love, but there was nothing she could do about it. Qingling, I will work hard. Shen Rongrong whispered aggrievedly. Yu Qingling sighed, and stretched out his hand to gently hold Shen Rongrong. Sister, I don't blame you, it's my fault that I want too much. He said gently and desperately, tomorrow is my birthday. Will you come to see me tomorrow? Yes, I will definitely come. Shen Rongrong nodded firmly. I want to eat oranges. I miss my Yunlin mountain oranges. I'll definitely get it for you. Shen Rongrong left. She comes here every day for trysts, which cannot last too long. Yu Qingling felt relieved that no one was in the room. He turned to look inward. Auntie, how did I behave just now? Huang Xinyan was meditating quietly. When she heard Yu Qingling's question, She smiled and said, "You are already very good at coaxing girls. Auntie, you taught me well, so tonight." Yu Qingling hesitated and did not continue. Huang Xinyan sighed. "Qingling, this is the last step. Tomorrow is the day when your 3-inch spiritual platform will be unlocked, you must persevere." Quote. Yu Qingling sat in silence on the chair for a long time. "Will you be able to escape successfully tomorrow?" Lang Firen returned on time. She walked into the room in a hurry, her eyes full of exhaustion and boredom. Yu Qingling had already prepared everything she needed to enter the house. The Empress was sitting on a bamboo chair with one arm resting on her forehead. It looked like things were not going so well today. Yu Qingling served carefully. Lang Firen came back to her senses and felt better. But she didn't move either. When it was almost done, Yu Qingling put on clean clogs for Lang Firen. He quietly and skillfully brought over a prepared fruit plate. Lang Firen took a few bites casually, and then said calmly, "Okay, I won't eat anymore, I want to change my clothes, hey, I'm irritable." Yu Qingling was finally able to stand up and serve. He gently and carefully removed Lang Firen's headdress and combed her hair with a wooden comb. "Ling many people in the sect can't sit still now. They feel that life is too peaceful and not as lively as before." Lang Firen seemed to be asking him, but she was actually talking to herself. Qingyu sect has now undergone a transformation, and many disciples cannot stand this kind of strict rules and regulations, so they naturally complain more and more. But Lang Firen didn't want to follow the old path, otherwise she would be surrounded and suppressed by people from all walks of life. As for those who complained, snort, Lang Firen snorted coldly. She suddenly looked at Yu Qingling coldly and said murderously, "Ling what do you think should be done with the traitors?" Yu Qingling's heart tightened, and he muttered softly, "Leave it to master." "Oh, then what do you think should be done with people who plan to escape?" Lang Firen's words scared Yu Qingling to the point where she almost knelt down. Did she discover something? Impossible. If he discovered it, could he still talk here? He calmed himself down and said, trembling, "I'll be put in a dungeon and face the wall and think about my mistakes." "You are still too soft-hearted." Lang Firen didn't target him. She laughed at herself and then asked, "Has Rongrong been looking for you recently?" Yu Qingling told the truth. "Senior sister has come here a few times, but I always said that I am already master's person, and I hope she will not come to disturb me." Lang Firen snorted coldly and said nothing. It was obvious that she was a little jealous. It's just that it's not easy for her to get into trouble like this. After all, Shen Rongrong was a disciple she trained and she was also a saint of the demon sect. When Yu Qingling saw this, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He put on a flattering expression, pinched his master's right-angled and thin shoulders and said, "Master, don't be angry. I will take good care of you tonight, okay?" "Huh, what other tricks can you come up with?" Lang Firen joked. "Hey, it's the boudoir now, don't worry about anything else. The most important thing is to stay with this rebel." Yu Qingling was a little shy, so he whispered a few words in Lang Firen's ear. Lang Firen's tired eyes instantly became excited. She said playfully, "Ling this is what you asked for. Don't blame master for bullying you afterwards." Yu Qingling said quickly, "No, it is Ling responsibility to make master happy." "Then let's go, Shen Rongrong sleeps very lightly now." After she was confused until early in the morning, she quickly packed up a few fresh oranges, and then asked about the master's whereabouts without any worries. Sure enough, the master was busy with sect affairs again. Shen Rongrong couldn't wait to come to the master's courtyard. She called softly, "Junior brother. Junior brother." No one responded. Shen Rongrong's heart sank a little, and she tiptoed into Lang Firen's room. There was no one in the house either. Shen Rongrong came to the basement door tremblingly and opened the basement unwilling to believe it. "This is not the first time I see my junior brother in the basement." She had seen it before. But the junior brother is the master's favorite, so it makes sense to treat him like this. Shen Rongrong could only deceive himself. Yu Qingling's heart was not with her master. But today, she saw a scene that shocked him. Then he saw Yu Qingling leaning against the wall, dying. His hands were locked to the wall by Qinglong tendons, and his sleeves hung down to his shoulders, exposing his fair arms. The clothes on his body were in tatters, as if they had been torn. Yu Qingling's head was tilted on his right arm, and his black hair hung down, blocking his left cheek. He was like a ruined doll, his eyes were lifeless, and he was breathing lightly. Junior brother. Shen Rongrong felt a surge of anger rushing to the top of his head, followed by a surge of sadness. The person I love was treated like this, and I couldn't take any measures. Shen Rongrong just wanted to take Yu Qingling away and fly away. But just think about it. She hugged Tangerine, walked down quickly, came to Yu Qingling's side, and helped him push his hair away with pity. There were clear palm prints on her cheeks. She leaned over and blew gently. Does it still hurt, junior brother? Yu Qingling looked at her dying, then showed a sad smile. Senior sister, I finally see you. Master respected her last night. Hey, it's okay not to mention it. Senior sister, can you put me down? I want to sleep quietly for a while. Quote. Yeah, I'll help you. Shen Rongrong looked at the green dragon tendons. As soon as she chanted a spell, the tendons tied to Yu Qingling's body loosened. Yu Qingling leaned to the side weakly. Shen Rongrong quickly supported him. Oops, there are still 10 minutes until the 3-inch spiritual platform is opened. Yu Qingling became anxious. He didn't know how to spend these 10 minutes. Hold it, don't be afraid. Huang Xinyan was extremely calm. The arrow is on the string and must be fired. Only by being calm at this time can we seize this golden opportunity. Junior brother, are you okay? Shen Rongrong helped Yu Qingling to the bed and asked him to rest quietly. Yu Qingling breathed a sigh of relief. As long as master doesn't come back, everything will be fine. Senior sister, thank you for saving me. I want to sleep for a while. Yu Qingling showed a pure smile. Shen Rongrong breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that he was okay. But at this time, she looked at the Qinglong tendon that had fallen on the ground, and bit her lip helplessly. She picked up the Qinglong Jin and said hesitantly, Junior brother. It's not that senior sister doesn't feel sorry for you. After all, I can't show up in the basement, and you will have to continue to be tied there later. This green dragon tendon, why don't you put it on first? Quote. Yu Qingling felt anxious. He endured his anxiety and said softly, Senior sister, just let me relax for a little while, okay? Just a quarter of an hour will do. Hey, I'm afraid that master will come back. Isn't it your birthday today? Master might also celebrate it for you. Quote. Shen Rongrong said in embarrassment. There was no way, no matter how much she loved Yu Qingling, she couldn't see the light of day. It would be unreasonable if master discovered that she was in the basement. Yu Qingling tried to delay as much time as possible. I feel sore all over. You can help me over in a while. It will be more convenient to tie me there. It's okay. I can control this Qinglong Jin. You can put it on first. You can just go over there later. Shen Rongrong kindly advised him. Yu Qingling smiled helplessly, and he could only say, that's okay. He stretched out his hand, and Shen Rongrong came over with the green dragon tendon. At this time, Yu Qingling exerted her strength and accidentally fell into Shen Rongrong's arms. Junior brother. Shen Rongrong felt like he was hugging a nephrite sculpture. With her beloved weak in her arms, ready for you to pick, she instantly forgot about the matter of Qinglong Jin. Senior sister, can you kiss me? Actually, I just want to make out with you today. Yu Qingling's eyes were full of impatience. But his tone was still so pitiful. Shen Rongrong pondered for a moment, but she couldn't control her emotions and lowered her head to kiss him. 2 minutes left. Yu Qingling trembled with her hands and counted down nervously. In order to delay time, he hugged the back of Shen Rongrong's head tightly. Bang! Just as the two were making out, the basement door was suddenly opened. Shen Rongrong was so frightened that he immediately separated from Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling also felt that her heart was about to jump out. Ruined. Then she saw Lang Firen standing at the door of the basement with a murderous look on her face, her pretty face covered with frost. Master. Shen Rongrong quickly knelt on the ground and was at a loss. What a fool. Lang Firen walked down step by step, staring at Yu Qingling. Shen Rongrong couldn't control her suppressed emotions, and she said with great grief, Master, I was wrong, I shouldn't have fallen in love with him. But. Go away, silly girl, you were deceived by him. It was him I was scolding. Quote. Lang Firen kicked Shen Rongrong aside. She was really an unworthy disciple. Then, she looked at Yu Qingling condescendingly. Yu Qingling's face was ashen, and she was sitting on the bed, completely lost in thought. Master, Yu Qingling whispered. Snapped. Lang Firen slapped him in the face. Yu Qingling rolled directly under the bed and lay on the ground, covering her face and not daring to move. Lang Firen was obviously very angry. She came over and pulled Yu Qingling's hair. You actually seduced my apprentice. Suddenly, she saw that Yu Qingling had no green dragon tendons on her body. Lang Firen was slightly startled, as if she had thought of something. At the same time, Yu Qingling, who was lying on the ground and had always been docile, actually showed a sarcastic smile to her. Lang Firen was instantly horrified. She was about to speak when she suddenly felt her body being hit. She saw the collapsed Shen Rongrong rushing over and throwing her to the ground. Shen Rongrong cried and shouted, Yu Qingling, run quickly. Run quickly. After all, she couldn't let go of her sweetheart. Rongrong, you are so stupid. Let me go. Lang Firen was thrown to the ground by Shen Rongrong. In desperation, she knocked Shen Rongrong away with a palm. Then he chanted the incantation loudly regardless of the situation. Slave of Chanwan. Bang. The basement exploded. Lang Firen's elegant little courtyard collapsed together. In this dust, a white shadow rises into the sky. Before Yu Qingling finished reciting the spell, she was like a shooting star, heading straight to the east. The small courtyard of the Qingyu sect master suddenly exploded. No one knows what happened. Everyone just guessed that there was a conflict between the Empress and the Saint, and they fought, and finally the house suffered damage. The master and apprentice were currently in another study room, relatively speechless. Shen Rongrong knelt on the ground, with a look of decline and despair. Lang Firen held a small bead in her hand and turned it around irritably. How far have you developed with him? Lang Firen asked in a cold tone. Shen Rongrong said mechanically. I just held hands and kissed, and that's it. Haha, that's it. Are you willing to risk your life for him? Lang Firen laughed mockingly. Shen Rongrong lowered his head and said nothing. Do you really think he is a pure and innocent person? Do you know what he looked like in the basement? Do you know that in order to please me last night, he personally asked me to tie him to the wall? Quote. Although what Lang Firen said was angry, it was obviously also filled with pride. She is Yu Qingling's woman, Shen Rongrong is just a tool. Shen Rongrong sighed heavily. She seemed to understand something. Hey, Lang Firen sighed. She played with the jade beads, stood up slowly, and walked around the room irritably. Yu Qingling, you are really as cunning as a fox. It's such a dead game, with no way out at all, and it can make you run away. As expected of the little immortal of Yunlin Mountain, you are indeed the most difficult prey to catch. Master, Shen Rongrong looked at the floor and called out softly. Lang Firen turned to look at her and said calmly, do you understand? Shen Rongrong knocked his head to the ground in pain, then raised his head, looked at the Empress with despair, and murmured, he is lying to me, right? Did you just react, silly disciple? Lang Firen came over and gave her a hard tap on the forehead. Then, Lang Firen angrily pulled Shen Rongrong up and asked her to sit opposite her. Do you know how I trapped Yu Qingling? Lang Firen said patiently. Shen Rongrong shook his head sadly. Her first love turned out to be a deception. Yu Qingling, you are so cruel. Lang Firen told her the whole story, and then said with a wry smile, hey, I was deceived by his appearance in the end. I took it lightly. Men really don't have any good things. Master, woo. Shen Rongrong cried sadly. She just felt that she was a fool. Okay, don't cry. Fortunately, you weren't deceived by him. Rongrong, you have to cheer up. We have to find a way to catch him back. Lang Firen patted Shen Rongrong on the shoulder. The female disciple who has been raised for such a long time has feelings after all. He is in the heavenly cultivation realm. How can we capture him? Shen Rongrong cried so hard that she asked with choked sobs. Don't worry, he can run away for a while, but not forever. Anyway, he is practicing the Chanu mental technique, and he is helpless when he encounters us. Snort. Quote. Lang Firen was full of confidence. Although Yu Qingling just drifted away as if she had been banished to heaven. But so what, little immortal lord, you don't want everyone to know how you behave in the basement, right? She placed the jade bead in Shen Rongrong's hand. This is a memory bead. I want to make tens of thousands of copies and distribute them. How can Yu Qingling still be his immortal? When Yu Qingling was flying in the air, she felt relaxed and happy. He escaped from the cage and still doesn't believe it. It wasn't until he was completely familiar with his previous strength that he was filled with joy. After flying hundreds of miles southeast, it slowed down. At this time, he was still in the realm of Juyu land, but he had no opponent. He saw clouds and mist in front of him, which must be living water, so he flew directly over. This is a waterfall. Yu Qingling thought about the humiliation she suffered in the demon cult, and she wanted to wash up. He came to the waterfall, simply took off his clothes, jumped into the water, and took a gentle bath. Qingling, you really like to be clean. I remember, didn't you and that female devil often take a mandarin duck bath? Huang Xinyan said jokingly in his morning platform. That's why you should take a good wash. Yu Qingling was in a good mood. He scrubbed his skin carefully, and then cast a cleaning spell on the dirty and wrinkled clothes. He didn't waste any time. After washing briefly, he got dressed, found a thin branch and tied his hair up. The clear and handsome little immortal is back again. Yu Qingling was not in a hurry to leave. He found a big stone, simply set up a few prohibition formations, and then lay down on the stone to get a good sleep. It feels so good to be free, even sleeping is a kind of enjoyment. Now that he has escaped, the next step is how to resettle Huang Xinyan. Auntie, let me send you to Lingjing Palace, Yu Qingling said with a yawn. Huang Xinyan felt very reluctant to give up. She looked at the crystal clear soul next to her and said hesitantly, even if I go back, I won't be able to find a physical body to possess him. I can't take away someone else's body, right? We are all decent people and cannot do such evil things. Quote. Yu Qingling thought for a moment, nodded and said, Auntie is right, but... He was embarrassed to say that Sankyun Tai was not a hotel, so staying at his place was not an option. Huang Xinyan immediately said pitifully, Qingling, don't you want your aunt to accompany you? Yu Qingling quickly coaxed her. No, it's just that Aunt Yan is always in my morning platform. Will she be cautious? You just dislike me. Huang Xinyan sighed sadly, closing her eyes and ignoring him. Yu Qingling had no choice but to say a lot of nice things, which made Huang Xinyan laugh. Huang Xinyan is not the kind of woman who is careless. She said softly, I will definitely not seize the body. I don't like other people's bodies, and I don't want other women to get close to you. You have to find a way for me, otherwise I will always live here with you. Quote. Faced with Sister Yu's coquettishness, Yu Qingling had no choice but to nod in agreement. But if she doesn't seize the body, what else can she do? Yu Qingling was in trouble. After thinking about it, he felt tired and finally fell asleep gently. The battle of wits and courage in the demon cult is not only physically tiring, but also mentally exhausted. Yu Qingling just slept like this for a whole day and a night. When he woke up, he felt the boulder moving rapidly. He opened his eyes drowsily, looked down, and was slightly surprised to see the stone being carried by a giant python, heading deep into the forest. Auntie, why didn't you wake me up? Yu Qingling asked gently. Huang Xinyan said innocently, I can't touch your soul, right? Besides, this is just a ferocious beast in the human cultivation realm. It can't even bite your skin. Yu Qingling smiled, everything her aunt said was right. He sat on the big snake and felt the ferocious beast's manic vitality. The big snake calmed down until it reached an abandoned altar. It shakes the prey off its back like a sacrifice. Yu Qingling was not in a hurry to leave, so she followed a bunch of cattle, sheep and wild boars and jumped into the altar. His feet did not touch the ground, he floated out of thin air, and came to the middle of the altar. I saw a worn-out big sword stuck in the middle of the altar, with several extremely thick iron ropes tied to the big sword. The iron rope has corroded, and there are rust spots on the sword. However, there was something obviously strange about this sword, as a black light flashed across its body. Then, the prey turned into blood and floated on the iron rope. The decay of the iron chain is even worse. Yu Qingling observed the sword curiously. The sword was 10 meters long, like a pillar, inserted diagonally in the center of the altar. He floated to the side of the giant sword and took a closer look. There were 2 words engraved on the sword. Shadow. This should be a magical weapon left by an ascended person. I don't know how long it has been here. Yu Qingling was not interested in such a big sword, and he didn't use weapons much on weekdays. Uninterested, he wanted to leave. Do you think you can take it away? Don't let the demon cult get it again. Huang Xinyan reminded him. Yu Qingling was right. Although he didn't need it, he couldn't leave it to Lang Firen. Then let Juyu Land see what the heavenly cultivation realm is. Yu Qingling's heart moved, and then he flew into the sky, and a cold air appeared around him. Almost instantly, a full moon appeared behind him. Then, he rushed down with this bright full moon. The cold air of the ice and snow, combined with the full moon, contained infinite power and hit the iron rope directly. Crash! The rotten iron ropes froze into ice lumps in an instant. Coupled with the force contained in the cold air, it directly turned into powder. Kang! The giant sword also broke free from the control of the iron rope at this moment. It turned into a thin one-handed sword and lay respectfully in front of Yu Qingling. Oh, is this surrender? Seeing this, Yu Qingling smiled slightly. With just one strike from Ling Tian, the shadow sword surrendered. He stretched out his hand and grasped the hilt of the sword. He felt that the sword was cool and cold, which was perfect for his technique. Yu Qingling couldn't help but feel happy. The big sword just now was really hard to use, but now this sword is just right. It's not bad, here's a suitable sword. Huang Xinyan smiled and congratulated. When Yu Qingling heard her voice, her heart suddenly moved. This sword is a precious sword, can Aunt Yan? Auntie, how about? Yu Qingling stopped talking midway through her words. Asking Aunt Yan to come out before made Aunt Yan very angry. It took a long time to coax her, and he didn't want to coax her again. Huang Xinyan did not refuse. If you want me to be a sword spirit for you, that's not impossible, but... But what? Yu Qingling asked curiously. Huang Xinyan looked at Yuenshan reluctantly. You have to agree to let me come and visit you from time to time. Yu Qingling laughed dumbly. Why do you all like my soul so much? Between Juyu Land and Yunlin Mountain, there are various large and small sects. Among them, the largest one is a fairy kingdom called Longsheng Dynasty. The reason why the three sects cannot get through is because they have to attack the demon sect through the Dragon Saint Dynasty and have to negotiate with the Dragon Saint Emperor. The Immortal Kingdom is not as good as the sect, and there are too many interests involved. It is impossible to say who is close to Qingyu sect. If the time comes, if you try to get in the way secretly, the gain will outweigh the loss. Yu Qingling didn't think about the stakes. It was his time to relax now. He came to Feilong City, the capital of Dragon Saint Kingdom, intending to inquire about the news. After being locked up in the basement for 2 months, he felt that he had become detached from the outside world. Yu Qingling wore a somewhat tattered white Taoist robe and carried a dark green sword on her back, walking comfortably on the streets of Feilong City. In the fairy kingdom, the people can be regarded as living and working in peace and contentment. The streets were bustling with activity. Yu Qingling looked at the fireworks in the world, and her heart felt warm. He had no money with him, so he couldn't buy anything. Fortunately, he is already in the heavenly cultivation realm, so he can choose not to do trivial matters such as eating. Yu Qingling came to an information wooden sign, where there were news of all sizes in Sijingzhou. People passing by would come and look at it, and then talk nonsense with satisfaction. People watching the news today seemed very excited, dancing and dancing while talking. Are you so happy watching the news? Could it be a good thing? Yu Qingling leaned over, but before she could take a closer look, she heard the shouts of the men and women next to her. Oh, the most famous immortal lord in the Four Realms continent actually served tea and water to the empress of the demon cult. Tisk, 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 this is simply shameless, shameless. Look at the little appearance of this immortal lord. This is not an immortal lord. Isn't this just a maid? Is the Qingyu sect standards so high now? Do the immortals in the heavenly cultivation realm have to kneel down to serve them? I want to go too. Yu Qingling felt dizzy after hearing this. He opened his eyes wide and looked forward, and saw pictures of servants clearly drawn on the information board. And he, Yu Qingling, is the protagonist above. I saw that his appearance was lifelike, and he served his noble master with a low eyebrow. Of course, the picture alone is not enough to make people believe it is real. There is also a clearly visible rubbing. This kind of shadowing is similar to the photo of Yu Qingling's world before he traveled through time. In the shadow, he is kneeling on the ground, holding a pair of red shoes, obviously waiting for his master to come over. Yu Qingling felt confused. Even though her cultivation was arrogant in the world, she was still top-heavy at this moment. He quickly left the crowd and came to a secluded place, leaning against the wall to catch his breath. He couldn't help but hold the shadow sword in his hand, and said softly, "Auntie, I was destroyed by Leng Firen." Huang Xinyan, who has become the shadow sword spirit, comforted him. "Qingling, it's okay. You have to cheer up." How to cheer up? Look now, this is just tidbits of news, but before long, the whole world will think that I have surrendered to the demon cult. If I'm not wrong, I can't even go back to Yunlin Mountain now, right? Quote. Yu Qingling said desperately. In less than 2 days, Leng Firen told the world how humiliated he was. Not to mention the damage to his reputation. Who can say that he has not surrendered to the enemy just by showing such humility? Not to mention how ruthless the demon cult is to traitors. The upright party will also kill traitors with 1,000 cuts. Yu Qingling couldn't even imagine what that crazy girl Su Mushui would do when she returned to Yunlin Mountain. This disciple is truly a rebel disciple. How about you go to our Lingjing sect? I guarantee you won't be bullied. Huang Xinyan said slightly excitedly. Yu Qingling thought about it, and finally, he clapped his hands and said, "Now it seems that there is really nowhere to go, and then I will go to Lingjing sect with you." Apart from anything else, the most important thing is to repair the flaws in the Chanu Immortal technique first. Quote. Yu Qingling's biggest task now is to find a quiet place and then plug the loopholes. After meeting Leng Fei, I was at a loss what to do. Yu Qingling did not stay in the Holy Dragon Kingdom any longer. Staying here and being discovered will only add to the trouble. He flew quickly, and after a day, he arrived at the area where Lingjing sect was located. Lingjing sect is a famous and upright sect with tens of thousands of disciples alone. It can be said that Lingjing sect and Qingyu sect are equally powerful opponents. Yu Qingling had been here once before. When he came to visit again this time, he felt like he was out of his mind. Without him, last time he got his identity as an immortal, and this time he got his identity as an asylum seeker. Yu Qingling didn't show too much pretense. He landed on the back hill and walked up the stairs to the main hall. Stop, who is it? Yu Qingling had not taken a few steps when a woman's warning rang in her ears. He looked up and saw 4 or 5 female cultivators floating in the air, collecting my sword and staring at him eagerly. He knew the one who scolded him. It was Huang Lixing, the eldest lady of the Lingjing sect, the daughter of the sect leader Huang Xining, and the niece of Huang Xinyan. Yu Qingling immediately showed a polite smile. He smiled and said, "Huang Fairy, it's me. I am Yu Qingling of Yunlin Mountain." Huang Lixing stared at him with almond-shaped eyes, looking at him in disbelief. "Are you Yu Qingling?" Yu Qingling spread her hands and said that it was true. Huang Lixing looked suspicious. She slowly landed with the disciples behind her and surrounded Yu Qingling. The female disciples looked at Yu Qingling and couldn't help but whisper. "This is the little immortal lord of Yunlin Mountain. Sure enough, suck, suck, suck. I heard that he was subdued by the demon empress and even licked him, ah. Ha, he's so dirty, but if I were the empress, I would definitely take care of him." Yu Qingling had a smile on her face, but listening to their words, she felt something was wrong. Moreover, Huang Lixing clearly knew him, but now she still had a wary expression on her pretty face. The sword in her hand was not sheathed, and she was ready to ask, "Why are you here in our back mountain?" Yu Qingling tried his best to be friendly and explained seriously, "I escaped from the demon cult and had no other place to go, so I wanted to join sect leader Huang. I don't want to see fellow Taoists here, and I hope Fairy Huang can recommend me." "Haha, did you spill the beans?" Huang Lixing raised her sword and pointed it at him with a successful look on her face. "You are a spy of the demon cult." As soon as he said this, the female disciples next to him also raised their swords towards Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling said quickly, "It's all a misunderstanding. Leng Firen framed me. Framing you. Then the picture of you kneeling on the ground holding the red shoes is also fake." Huang Lixing asked indifferently. Yu Qingling was speechless for a moment. He didn't know how to explain, so he had to take off the shadow sword from his back. "What are you going to do? Put it down," Huang Lixing shouted nervously. Yu Qingling threw the shadow sword over. Huang Lixing took it, and her aunt's voice rang in her ears. Xinger, my Xinger. Aunt. Huang Lixing was shocked. She held the shadow sword and ignored Yu Qingling. She quickly ran to the side to talk to Huang Xinyan. I haven't seen my relatives for a long time, and it's already a sword spirit when we meet again. Huang Lixing burst into tears. But after Huang Xinyan comforted her, she gradually calmed down. Auntie, is this person the one who made you into a sword spirit? Huang Lixing stared at Yu Qingling fiercely and asked. You misunderstood, he saved me. Huang Xinyan said with a smile. The Empress of the demon cult discovered me and severely injured me. When I was about to die, she preserved my consciousness. Huang Lixing was shocked, and then her eyes finally softened when she looked at Yu Qingling. Then, Auntie, is he really not a spy? Now the entire Dongzhou regards Yu Qingling as a member of the demon sect. Even his disciple Su Mushui has changed his banner and said he wants to fight against the traitors of the sect. Huang Lixing asked doubtfully. Huang Xinyan said with a smile. Hey, the Empress of the demon sect is really hard to resist, but I don't want to worry about it anymore. After all, this is Yu Qingling's business. What I want to tell you is another thing. Quote, what's up? Huang Xinyan looked at Yu Qingling through the shadow sword, feeling mixed in her heart. She said leisurely, control him, our sect needs him. Yu Qingling watched Huang Lixing chatting with her aunt for a long time. After waiting for a long time, she carefully put the shadow sword on her back and walked over with a serious look on her face. Auntie, have you made it clear? Yu Qingling asked with a smile. Huang Lixing looked at him angrily, then waved his hand, and the disciples put away their swords. But it's not over yet. Huang Lixing said indifferently. You are a monk in the heavenly cultivation realm. Our Lingjing sect cannot accommodate a great god like you. Besides, you have not been cleared of the suspicion of being a spy of the demon sect. Yu Qingling pointed at the shadow sword in confusion. Don't you believe what my aunt said? Huang Lixing. What if you lied to her? Yu Qingling couldn't laugh or cry. The two of us advance and retreat together, live and die together. I don't believe it anyway. Huang Lixing looked like a young lady, very arrogant. Yu Qingling pursed her lips, and a surge of anger rose in his heart. But he still held back his anger and said, then, fellow Taoist Huang, how can you believe it? Huang Lixing said calmly, my aunt said that you conceal your cultivation. If you have no evil intentions, you can prove it to us. After all, we are from an upright family and will not harm you. Yu Qingling pondered for a moment, and finally said weakly, if I block the spiritual platform, can you take me to see the sect master? Huang Lixing's eyes shone. No problem. Yu Qingling thought about it. She had already arrived at Lingjing sect, and her cultivation was of no use now, so she had better meet Huang Xining first. He chanted a spell, and the 3-inch spiritual platform that had just been opened a few days was blocked again. He once again experienced the powerlessness of mortals. Yu Qingling said slightly weakly, is it okay? Huang Lixing nervously came over to touch him and found that he had indeed sealed his cultivation. Then he breathed a heavy sigh of relief. The atmosphere at the scene also gradually relaxed. You guys go first, I still have to examine him. Huang Lixing waved his hand, and the female disciples watched Yu Qingling leave with curious faces. They talked quietly before leaving. Senior sister, don't you like Yu Shanzun? Why do you have such an attitude now? You don't understand, don't you? Let's just keep it a secret, hee hee. Hey, such a handsome little immortal is going to suffer again. The more Yu Qingling listened, the more something was wrong. Why were they looking at him with a hint of sympathy and teasing? Hey, let's meet sect leader Huang first. He looked at Huang Lixing hesitantly. Fellow Taoist, can you leave? Huang Lixing smiled and pointed in the direction of the back mountain. Let's go, my mother is meditating in the back mountain. Yu Qingling didn't believe it, but seeing Huang Lixing walking in front of him, her slender waist twisting and turning, he didn't continue to guess. The shadow sword is in Huang Lixing's hands, and his cultivation level has been sealed. If he doesn't believe this, why should he bother? If you are from a well-known and decent family, you won't cheat yourself, right? Huang Xinyan is also present. He followed Huang Lixing and asked about the situation as he walked. Fellow Taoist Huang, how is the situation in the eastern part of Dongzhou recently? Thanks to your blessing, all the demon cults here have been cleaned up, and everyone is happy. At least there are no large-scale fights. What about Yunlin Mountain? What are you talking about, that disciple of yours? Lord Yu Xian, that disciple of yours is extraordinary. He has firmly controlled the sect within a month. Now I heard that you are serving the Empress in the demon cult. She is furious and vows to capture you and punish you. Don't go back to Yunlin Mountain, or you may be locked up by Su Mushui. Quote. Huang Lixing said teasingly. Yu Qingling sighed. Su Mushui was indeed a traitor. She shouldn't have been taken in then. Now it's better, it makes it difficult for me to go home. He asked again. What about Yao Palace? How about Fairy Lin? He was afraid that Lin Qingyu would develop badly if he knew about his situation. Huang Lixing stopped, looked at him calmly and said, Qingyu is fine, but she will soon compete in martial arts to recruit a bride. Recruiting a bride. Yu Qingling couldn't help but sway when she heard this. Is Lin Qingyu looking for a bride? Yes, Qingyu has admired the Immortal Lord for a long time, but she became disheartened when she learned about what you were doing in the demon sect. I feel that all men in the world are just like this. Quote. Huang Lixing said softly. Yu Qingling said nothing. After not seeing each other for 2 months, everything has changed. He followed Huang Lixing in despair. Not long after, they came to a cave. Huang Lixing opened the cave and pointed inside. My mother is inside, let's go in together. Yu Qingling followed Huang Lixing in like a zombie. As soon as he entered the door, Huang Lixing turned the mechanism and closed the cave tightly. Yu Qingling came back to her senses at this time. The cave looked full of dust, and it was obvious that no one had lived there for a long time. And where is Huang Xining in this? He suddenly felt a familiar experience, turned his head suddenly, and saw Huang Lixing looking at him with a smirk on his face. She put her hands behind her back, pressed her chin against the collar of her clothes, smiled foolishly, and moved closer to him little by little. Yu Qingling couldn't help but retreat, and after a while, he sat helplessly on the edge of the bed. Huang Daoyu, what are you doing? I have sealed the spiritual platform as you said, don't you still believe me? Yu Qingling said impatiently. Huang Lixing had an extra bead in her hand. Yu Qingling recognized it. It was Toying bead. Lang Firen liked to play with this kind of thing before. Huang Lixing chuckled. It's not that I don't believe you. What you did in the demon cult went too far. Even my aunt said that you might be a little involved. If I don't invest, can she trust me? Yu Qingling really wanted to confront Huang Xinyan face to face. Why was he suddenly stabbed in the back? Having said that, you know people, faces but not hearts. I've given you the sword now and my cultivation has been sealed. What else do you want from me? Yu Qingling complained angrily with dissatisfaction in her tone. Just do this, take off your clothes, and I'll take some photos of you. That way, we'll believe you. Huang Lixing looked excited. She was wearing a goose yellow dress and her excited expression made her look cute and cute. Yu Qingling turned her head indifferently. Impossible. Only now did he realize that he had just emerged from the tiger's den and entered the wolf's den. But he still had a glimmer of hope. This is a decent family. But he forgot one thing. These immortal women are not as gentle and polite as mortal women. Once they set their sights on the people and things they like, they will really do whatever it takes. Huang Lixing looked at his stubborn look, but this time she wasn't angry. She just came over with a smile and hugged him regardless. Shanzun, don't be nervous. This is all routine. How could our Lingjing sect bully you? Come on, cooperate well. I will report to my mother right after the filming is over. Think about it, you are in the heavenly cultivation realm. If we don't hold your things hostage, what will we do if you turn your back and kill us all? Quote. If that's the case, why would I come here? Yu Qingling's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't break away, and Huang Lixing hugged him again and messed around. In the end, he could only say to himself, believe her for the last time. He said softly, let go of me first. Huang Lixing nodded quickly, like a chicken pecking at rice. She stood in front of Yu Qingling with excitement on her face, holding the shadow bead and preparing to record it in real time. Yu Qingling took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and began to slowly unbutton his clothes. Take off all your clothes. Hurry up, Huang Lixing urged impatiently. She liked Yu Qingling so much, and originally wanted to be his Taoist companion on an equal footing, but who would have thought that the immortal lord she liked had the same status as a foot-washing maid in the demon sect? Since you are so lowly, why do you need to show off to me? Yu Qingling stood up, her white Taoist robe slowly took off, and he stood in front of Huang Lixing. Huang Lixing drooled at the sight. She put down the tuiying bead and stretched out her hand to hug Yu Qingling. Fellow Taoist, calm down, Yu Qingling said angrily. What are you pretending to be? You can grovel to the devil's sect, but you become cold and aloof when you meet us. Let me tell you, I will not tolerate you. Huang Lixing was so angry that she threw Yu Qingling down on the bed. Hold his face and start kissing. But she doesn't have any experience, it's like seeing a favorite toy and not knowing how to operate it. Yu Qingling struggled hard and said angrily, I have not joined the demon cult, what do you want me to do to believe it? Can you take me to see Sect Master Huang? Quote, Huang Lixing stopped and looked at him as if he were a fool, and then she finally couldn't help laughing. Kekeki. Huang Lixing laughed so hard that she lost all her strength, got off him directly, pointed at Yu Qingling and continued to laugh. Why are you laughing? Ouch, my stomach hurts, my god, Yu Shanzun, why are you so innocent and cute? Let me tell you honestly, in fact, I knew you were a good person the first time I met you. Really, just from that first meeting. But, haven't you heard that sentence? Those who have wronged you know better than you how wronged you are. Quote. Yu Qingling looked at her blankly and asked in confusion, why is this? I have never offended you on weekdays. I came to Lingjing sect to learn from my master. Why do you do this to me? Huang Lixing touched his hair and said with a confused expression, because I like you. Yu Qingling looked at her in disbelief, with a look of decline on her face. Fairy Li Xing, your temperament really doesn't match your appearance at all. Huang Lixing jumped forward with a smile. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up, teach me how to practice dual cultivation. A decent family is a decent family. Yu Qingling didn't suffer much physical pain this time. He couldn't remember when he had this little fan girl Huang Lixing. But this little fan girl just wants to lock her idol in a cave and treat it as her own personal belongings. Immortal Lord, I'm leaving now. I'll come see you in the evening. Huang Lixing got dressed happily and walked out of the cave with the shadow sword. Before closing the door, she didn't forget to say something to Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling curled up on the bed, feeling like her body had been hollowed out. Huang Lixing got the man she longed for so easily. She was carrying the shadow sword, talking to Huang Xinyan, and walking happily on the mountain road. Auntie, I will take you to see your mother. You will suffer this time. Huang Xinyan smiled and said, it's not hard, at least I'll bring you a good husband. Huang Lixing's pretty face was hot. She patted the hilt of the shadow sword and said shyly, Auntie, stop teasing me. Isn't this all your idea? When Huang Lixing came into contact with the shadow sword, he had no intention of deceiving Yu Qingling. But under Huang Xinyan's instigation, she gradually became malicious. Huang Xinyan knew her very well. Even if she had been lurking in the demon sect for so long, Huang Xining would mention Huang Lixing's growth from time to time when communicating with the Lingjing sect. In her growth, the three words Yu Qingling occupied a dominant position. There is no way, the best young man in the four kingdoms, which saint can resist his charm? Now, Yu Qingling is standing in front of her like this stupidly, should she still have to wait? As long as the rice is cooked, not even Huang Xining can change the facts. We will meet my mother later, you have to keep it a secret for me. Huang Lixing said worriedly. Don't worry, I just told you that Yu Qingling came here, gave you the sword, and then left. Isn't this the end of the world? Huang Xinyan was not worried at all. Who can understand the idea of the heavenly cultivation realm Immortal Lord? No explanation needed. That's good, and, what does he like to eat on weekdays? I'll bring him some at night. Auntie, I like him so much, and I also want to meet him. Quote. Huang Lixing's face was full of peach blossoms, like a girl in love with spring. As soon as she came out of the cave, she wanted to go back and be with Yu Qingling. Hey, silly girl, don't be so impatient. He won't be able to escape within this month. When I give you Qingfangming Yu Ju, you will be his master from now on. Huang Xinyan said with a smile. When she was working as an undercover agent in the demon sect, she naturally mastered the Qingfangming Yu technique. She can do it too. Chapter 13 of the Obscure Mingyu chapter. I just didn't expect that this was a key to control the monks in the heavenly cultivation realm. When Huang Lixing heard this, she clenched her fists and said, I will study hard. Her eyes were full of fighting spirit, and she arrived at the main peak of Lingjing sect in a short time. Her mother, Huang Xining, is meditating in the Zen room. Huang Lixing tiptoed over, stood obediently at the door and looked inside. She glanced at it and retracted her little head. Then took another look. Huang Xining finally couldn't meditate anymore. She slowly opened her eyes and called lovingly, Myoli, are you lazy again? Huang Lixing ran in quickly and said with joy on her face, Mom, good news, look, this is my aunt. She handed over the shadow sword. Huang Xining suddenly stood up from the futon after hearing this. Her eyes were like lightning, staring at the shadow sword. She reached out and grasped it, and instantly felt her sister's consciousness. Xinyan, how come you have become the sword spirit of a sword? Huang Xining said worriedly and angrily. Good sister, don't get excited, just listen to me slowly. When Huang Xinyan saw her sister, she finally let out a long sigh of relief. It feels so good to be home. The leader of the Lingjing sect, Huang Xining, is known as the Lingfei Fairy and is a cultivator in the Blue Sea realm. She was once a famous beauty in Dongzhou. Time passed, and the fairy in the past found a secret method from nowhere, gave birth to a daughter, and took up the important responsibility of Lingjing sect. Come to think of it, it's been decades. Huang Xining is now wearing a goose-yellow Taoist robe. Her delicate body is covered by the Taoist robe, and no trace of spring can be seen. But the maternal nature exuded from her body is enough to make any disciple feel grateful and respectful when they see her. This is a powerful personality charm that cannot be achieved without great kindness. She knelt on the futon, her little feet wearing loose white socks, just quietly pressed under her buttocks. After listening to her sister's narration, she asked softly, You mean, Yu Shanzun is gone? Yeah, mother, he was so cold and cold. He threw the sword to me and ran away, but he made me mad. Huang Lixing put her hands on her hips and said pretentiously. But there was no anger at all in her words. Huang Xining looked at her daughter and said dotingly, Everyone knows that the Immortal has a weird temper. Besides, if he treats you like this, don't you talk about him every day? Huang Lixing immediately blushed and said, Mom, you can't tease me like this. I'm leaving and ignoring you and my aunt. Huang Xining pulled her and touched her hair. Suddenly, she smelled a strange smell. This is not the smell of my daughter. Huang Lixing was born by Huang Xining after drinking the mother water. Her whole person is similar to Huang Xining. She knows very well whether her daughter has any moles on her body. This smell is refreshing and tranquil, the scent of an extremely outstanding young man. Huang Xining was stunned. She looked at her daughter in a daze. I couldn't help but laugh in my heart. My daughter has grown up and knows how to fall in love. She didn't expose her daughter's specialness, but she was just curious about what charm this young man had that could make her daughter, who had high eyesight, fall in love with him as before. She pulled her daughter and looked at the shadow sword, her thoughts turning. Xinyan, what do you think now? Being a sword spirit is just a temporary measure, and you have to find a way to resurrect it. Huang Xinyan was not in a hurry. She smiled and said, I think it's quite good. This sword is the sword of the little immortal lord. I feel quite proud to be his sword spirit. She didn't say anything selfishly. As a sword spirit, Yu Qingling would not reject her. Even if she was stabbed in the back this time, she would forgive her next time. After all, I am bound to his sword. But if you have a physical body, you won't have this attitude. It's up to you. It's not like sword spirits can't practice. After you reach the heavenly cultivation realm, you can still condense your body, and it's still a sword body. It's much more powerful than before. Huang Xining said with a smile. The three of them said a few more personal words, and then Huang Lixing said happily, Mother, Aunt, please follow me from now on. I will carry her on my back every day. Don't worry, I will definitely clean her sword every day. Huang Xining shook her head helplessly. Then don't let your aunt get hurt. Don't worry, Auntie, let's go play, I'll take you to the back mountain for a walk. Huang Lixing was as distraught as an arrow, and even Huang Xining could see it. Back mountain. Huang Xining had an idea. Could it be that she was going to meet her lover? Would you like to go take a look? Huang Xining sat on the futon, curious. My daughter must have gone to meet her little lover. But why should I take my aunt with me? And, why can my aunt know about it, but my mother can't know about it? Huang Xining couldn't sit still. My daughter is the flesh that fell from my body, even if it is my younger sister, I don't kiss her. Now that my daughter has her own little secret, as a mother, how could she not be interested? She wants to go see it too. At least he needs to know what his son-in-law looks like. And don't cross the line. Huang Xining moved at her word, and she disappeared outside the Zen room in a flash. Her cultivation level was much higher than that of Huang Lixing, so she followed him all the way without her daughter noticing. When Huang Lixing came to the back mountain, he became more and more excited as he walked. She is jumping up and down now, like a cute little bunny. In Huang Xining's eyes, this was really novel. How could a disciple of the Immortal cultivation sect be so lively? It can be seen that my daughter is very happy. When she saw Huang Lixing coming to an abandoned cave, she opened the door briskly. Huang Xining took this opportunity and rushed into the cave in an instant, sticking her whole body to the top of the cave. Huang Lixing also slowly closed the door. She didn't realize at all that she was being followed by her mother. After Huang Xining came to the top, she just took a closer look and was stunned for an instant. I saw a stunningly beautiful young man sitting by the bed with a sad look on his face. The white robe on his body was loose and tattered in several places. Her black hair lay scattered on her shoulders, and she didn't even bother to take care of it. When he saw Huang Lixing come in, he stood up excitedly and said, "Fairy Huang, this is the end of the matter. I hope you can stop here." Huang Xining felt dizzy when she heard his voice and saw his appearance. Who is this beautiful young man? Isn't this the little immortal of Yunlin Mountain? Why was the little immortal lord in the Tai realm of heavenly cultivation locked up in this abandoned cave by his daughter? Didn't he leave in a cold and silent manner? Huang Xining's head was dizzy. She saw Huang Lixing smiling crazily, then walking over with his hands behind his back. Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. "Huang Fairy, aren't you trying to make things difficult for others?" "I force others to do something difficult. What's the matter? You are just immortal now, so you bite me." Huang Lixing shook his little head and said arrogantly. She pressed Yu Qingling, looked at his handsome face, and said in a slightly obsessed tone, "Yu Shanzun, actually I know that you are interested in that girl Qing Yu, but it's a pity that falling flowers are intentional and flowing water is ruthless. Just feel free to make a couple with me, okay? Quote, the demon sect has a grudge against me. If you accept me so rashly, they will cause trouble for the Lingjing sect." Yu Qingling said softly. "Are you kidding? Who knew you were coming to our place? Okay, stop talking about this, love me well, and I will give you delicious food tonight. What do you want to eat?" Quote. As she spoke, she leaned forward, no longer reserved at all. But Huang Xining, who was hiding above, finally couldn't bear it anymore. Her daughter wants to do such a thing in front of her. How could a mother-in-law be able to stand it? She came down directly from above and gently patted her daughter's shoulder. She said angrily, "Myoli, what are you doing?" Oops. Huang Lixing trembled with fright as if she had seen a ghost. When she looked up, she saw that it was her mother. Her pretty face instantly felt like it was on fire. The whole person was frozen there. This is so embarrassing. I was teasing a pretty boy and was caught red-handed by my mother. Huang Lixing looked at the ground and really wanted to create an extra crack for her to get through. Why are you so dazed? Why don't you come down? Huang Xining also blushed, but as an elder, she still had some knowledge. Although he has never touched a man, he is older than the two of them anyway. Huang Lixing hurriedly pulled her clothes off the bed and tied them in a hurry. She pursed her lips and looked at her mother with an embarrassed look. Then, she quickly picked up the shadow sword and discussed countermeasures with her aunt. "Put your aunt down. You two are in cahoots," Huang Xining said angrily. Huang Lixing stuck out her tongue and put down the shadow sword helplessly. "Then stand there properly. I'm probably going to get scolded today. But for the Immortal Lord, it is worth getting scolded. The raw rice has been cooked, and my mother will definitely love herself." Huang Xining then looked at Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling had already put on his clothes at this time. As if he was surviving a disaster, he softly called out with moist eyes, "Sect Master Huang." Seeing how pitiful he looked, Huang Xining couldn't help but feel motherly love. She quickly came over, supported Yu Qingling, and said softly, "Yu Shanzun, what's wrong with you?" Yu Qingling felt the rich tenderness of maternal love, and his body and mind finally relaxed. He sighed deeply and told what happened to him. After hearing this, Huang Xining's face was full of pity. She didn't expect that after the battle between good and evil, Yu Qingling would be the one who suffered the most. And the three of them, from well-known and decent families, still hold celebration banquets here every day. But what made Huang Xining the most angry was that Yu Qingling finally escaped and was tricked into the cave by her own daughter. She glared at Huang Lixing fiercely, while the latter pinched the corners of his clothes and raised his toes to pretend to be pitiful. "Myoli, come here." Huang Xining was angry. She really didn't expect that the daughter she had trained for so long could do such a cruel thing. Huang Lixing walked over timidly, looking like a dead pig who was not afraid of boiling water. "Apologize to the Immortal." Huang Xining couldn't do anything to her. "You can't give me a beating, right?" So I could only angrily ask her to apologize. Huang Lixing glanced at Yu Qingling with ill intentions, came over with a smile on her face, and said a deep blessing. "Immortal Lord, don't be angry. Let's be good in the future, okay? Where is her apology? She is clearly confident." Yu Qingling looked at Huang Lixing's appearance and naturally guessed that this girl was confident. Speaking of which, this is someone else's territory, and her mother and aunt will definitely turn to her. How can there be so much fairness in the world of cultivating immortals? Kissing each other is the mainstream. He had no qualifications at all to let Huang Lixing be punished. Apologizing is the greatest kindness Huang Xining can do. Wanting to understand this, Yu Qingling had no choice but to sigh and say, "This matter is in the past, so don't mention it." In any case, Huang Lixing's methods were much gentler than Leng Firen's. But he wanted to make a decision, but others didn't want to. "No, Immortal Lord, I am yours now, how can you not mention it even if you don't mention it? Aren't you going to just slap your ass and leave after you've finished eating? You have to marry me." Quote, Huang Lixing still relied on him. When Huang Xining saw this, she could only say with a straight face, Go out, girls, be more reserved. Listen to what you said, I'm really not ashamed." Quote. Facing her mother, Huang Lixing spread her hands helplessly, but she still boldly glared at Yu Qingling. "You can't run away anyway, we have a long way to go." Huang Lixing held the shadow sword and came to the entrance of the cave to wait. This was naturally in cahoots with her dear aunt. Yu Qingling saw that Huang Xining was the only one left, so he said politely, "Sect Master Huang, I am now forced by the demon cult to have nowhere to go, and my cultivation level cannot be used. I hope that for the sake of my fellow sect, I hope that I can do it. A helping hand." Now it seems that Huang Xining can help him. Huang Xining looked at Yu Qingling's pretty face. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. After all, mother-in-law only cares about her son-in-law. In fact, according to Huang Lixing, Yu Qingling really couldn't run away. So Huang Xining regarded him as one of her own family members in her heart. She said softly, "Yu Shanzun, if according to what you said, the Chan Nu immortal technique you practiced is completely restrained by Qingfengming Yu Ju, then the only way is for you to block the formed soul. Then change your tune and practice other techniques. I am short-sighted and in terms of cultivation, I am not even half as good as the immortal master. But, I still recommend that you build a spiritual platform and practice again. In any case, the Chan Nu immortal technique is a technique of the demon cult, so it is best not to practice it anymore." Quote. Yu Qingling pondered. He sighed and said leisurely, "Actually, I have also guessed this method. After all, it is unreasonable to reach the heavenly cultivation realm in such a short time, and there must be loopholes. That, sect leader Huang, can I join the Lingjing sect?" Quote. He looked at Huang Xining expectantly. When the latter heard this, he immediately became happy. She said happily, "That's natural, our Lingjing sect will definitely welcome you to join us. Qingling, don't worry, I will be your master. Xing'er will be your senior sister from now on. You should practice the Taishang Heart Sutra of Lingjing sect, and I will also find heavenly materials and earthly treasures for you. With your talent, it is estimated that you can reach the state of cultivating good deeds in 1 year. Quote. When Yu Qingling heard this, her face showed no expression, but she smiled bitterly in her heart. Alas, everything has to start from scratch. He used to be a famous immortal in Dongzhou in the heavenly cultivation realm. It's okay now, we still have to start from scratch with the human cultivation realm. Do you have to practice until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse? But if you don't practice, you will be controlled by the demon empress. Moreover, sword spirit Huang Xinyan obviously did not intend to let herself go. It would be difficult for her to pass the Qingfangming Yuju to Huang Lixing. This young lady also has the potential to be a yandere. After all, Chanu's immortal method can no longer be used. Then, Master, please accept my disciple's bow. Yu Qingling made a decision immediately. He knelt directly in front of Huang Xining, kowtowed respectfully and paid homage. No, 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 get up quickly. Huang Xining quickly supported him, her bright and gentle face full of happiness. She must be happy to have Yu Qingling as her apprentice. She just looked Yu Qingling up and down, unable to move her eyes away. There is no way, Xiao Shanzun is too handsome. Yu Qingling was a little embarrassed by her appreciative look. Seeing that he was starting to be cautious, Huang Xining smiled and said, Good boy, from now on I will be your master. Let's agree first, don't blame master for not teaching well. Quote. No, no, I will be very satisfied if master can take me in. Yu Qingling said sincerely. Now that he can't go anywhere, he has no right to dislike Huang Xining. Gee, you kid is just so cute when you talk. By the way, since you worship me as your teacher, you have to hide your name, otherwise the demon sect will easily come after you. You will be called Ling Yu from now on. This name suits you. Quote. The more Huang Xining looked at him, the more she liked him. No one would refuse such a handsome person as his apprentice, right? She even had the urge to hug Yu Qingling. Everyone listens to master. Yu Qingling lowered her head and said with a low eyebrow. Xiao Shanzun, you have such a good temper. I thought you were a cold little male god before. Huang Xining held his hand and said with a smile. The immortal lord who made the world eclipse now looks really well behaved and sensible. She couldn't help but reach out and pinch Yu Qingling's face. Yu Qingling wanted to run away, but since the other party was already his master, he had no choice but to smile shyly and say, Master, stop making trouble. Hey, okay, I won't tease you anymore, let's go, master will take you to find a place to stay. Huang Xining gently pulled him out. Arriving at the door, Huang Lixing jumped over excitedly. Mother, you can't let the immortal lord go. There are demon sects outside, but it's dangerous. We have an upright family and we have the same spirit. We have to take care of the immortal lord no matter what. Nonsense, how could being a mother put him in danger? However, my mother knows very well what you are thinking. Quote. Huang Xining tapped Huang Lixing's forehead. The daughter quickly covered her forehead and said, Ouch. Of course, this is pretending. But Huang Xining still felt a little distressed and said, Xinger, this will be your junior brother Ling Yu from now on. Don't bully him. Junior brother Ling Yu. Oh, I understand, mother. You are awesome, I love you so much. Huang Lixing instantly understood what was going on. It must be my mother who took Yu Qingling as her apprentice. Great, now the immortal lord has no place to run. Regardless of her appearance, she threw herself on Huang Xining and kissed her mother's face happily. It can be seen how favored she is. Huang Xining was naturally happy when her daughter kissed her, but she still pretended to be impatient. Go down, no matter how big or small. From now on, take your junior brother to practice more often. Don't always mess around. Find a place for your junior brother to live, and try to be as close to me as possible. Huang Xining ordered. When Yu Qingling heard this, her head was pounding. Do you want to practice with Huang Lixing in the future? Is that cultivation? Then every day. He sighed dejectedly. Huang Lixing was extremely happy. She looked at Yu Qingling with a triumphant expression. Junior brother Ling Yu, please give me your advice in the future. I will find a room for you. Senior sister will protect you from now on. After saying that, she took the shadow sword and flew away. As for the residence, it must be closer to me. After all, my mother has spoken, stay closer to her. As Huang Xining's daughter, she lives in Huang Xining's small courtyard. Chapter 21. A minor event happened in Lingjing sect recently. That is sect leader Huang, who has become the leader, and has accepted a young disciple. You know, sect master Huang has not accepted any closed disciples for several years. On weekdays, the elders impart their teachings. The sect leader has become the symbol and belief of Lingjing sect. The earth cultivation blue sea realm is already a realm beyond the reach of mortals. Fairy Lingfei is also the goddess of everyone within the jurisdiction of Lingjing sect. Her daughter Huang Lixing, a genius girl from the Lingjing sect, is now in the earth cultivation mountain tomb realm and can be called a rising star in the immortal cultivation world. Lin Qingyu, the saint of the Yao Palace, and Su Mushui, the new head of Yunlin Mountain, are known as the three genius girls. With such talent, it is said that this new young apprentice does not even have any cultivation level. Immortal, isn't that right? He doesn't even have the human cultivation realm. I feel like he's not enlightened at all. Hey, who knows what master is thinking? Maybe he is a unique cultivation genius. For a time, there were different opinions among the sect. But the new junior brother Lingyu is very low-key in his work. He has always lived in seclusion and has no contact with others. Over time, everyone no longer paid attention to this young apprentice who had no news. Now the Lingjing sect is developing rapidly, with more and more disciples, its jurisdiction is getting larger and larger, and there are several more cities it belongs to. It will soon be bordered by the forces of Yunlin Mountain. All the disciples were gearing up, dreaming of competing with Yunlinshan. For a time, the entire sect began to practice and prepare for war. As the eldest sister in the sect, Huang Lixing was currently pestering the reclusive junior brother Ling Yu, playing beside a stream. Huang Lixing was barefoot, and her white gauze skirt was rolled up and tied into a knot on her calf to prevent it from being splashed by the stream. She didn't bother to use the water avoiding spell, so she stepped on the flowing stream with her two white feet and let the clear water wash over her. Huang Lixing bent over and stared at the fish swimming in the water. From time to time, he lowered his head suddenly and fished for it with his hands. No matter whether he catches it or not, he will laugh like a silver bell. She had a great time playing. Yu Qingling was bored and lighting a fire on the shore, waiting for her senior sister to catch fish and cook grilled fish. He wanted to go practice today, but Huang Lixing said that he must accompany her on the date. Yu Qingling was helpless, but he didn't even think of going to his master to complain. Because when it comes to Huang Lixing's pursuit of Yu Qingling, master will only turn a blind eye. As long as it doesn't go too far, Huang Xining hopes that her daughter can have a good relationship with Yu Qingling. Yu Qingling watched his senior sister having a great time, so he sat cross-legged on the grass, reached out and put the shadow sword on his knees. Speaking of which, this sword now belongs to my senior sister and master. He was surrounded from all sides. Qingling, don't always look sad. Aren't you happy in Lingjing sect now? Huang Xinyan asked him with a smile. Very happy. Yu Qingling said insincerely. He did not reject Huang Lixing, but the lack of free love made him feel a little uncomfortable. You are just too great. Our Li Xing is very nice. She is good looking, has good cultivation aptitude, and has a clean family background. Moreover, the Lingjing sect will be hers from now on, so just accept her. Huang Xinyan enthusiastically recommended her niece. In the past half-month, as long as she had contact with Yu Qingling, she had to act as a matchmaker to promote her niece. She really didn't want Yu Qingling to leave Lingjing sect. Even if he becomes his nephew and son-in-law, that's okay. As long as you stay with him, you can do anything. Huang Xinyan couldn't figure out what she was thinking. Anyway, you can't leave. The beautiful woman already regarded Yu Qingling as the person closest to her in her heart. After all, their souls are already. However, Huang Xinyan will never admit her feelings for Yu Qingling. She couldn't hurt her only relative in the world. Then just be his sword spirit and protect him. I would rather let him fall into a gentle and wealthy land. Yu Qingling remained as before, neither speaking nor refusing. He was in a mess and didn't know how to make a decision. Just wait a little longer. When Lin Qingyu finds her husband, he will probably be able to let go. Oh, junior brother, I can't catch any fish. Huang Lixing got tired of playing in the water. She stamped her little feet, pouted her little mouth, and twisted her body angrily to act coquettishly. The two arms were dangling back and forth, as if they were playing tricks. Yu Qingling smiled bitterly, got up and went to the river, where he caught 2 fresh carp from a fish basket. Then eat what I catch. He had already laid a fishing trap just now and was waiting to take it out at this time. Huang Lixing sat happily next to the bonfire and watched Yu Qingling grilling fish with a smile. The cool breeze blowing on his face, the flowing stream, and the aroma of grilled fish put Huang Lixing in a good mood. She couldn't help but hum a folk song. Beautiful people, beautiful scenery, beautiful songs. Yu Qingling's complicated heart also relaxed. After the two of them ate the fish, Yu Qingling cleaned up the scene and said, "Sister, it's time for me to go back and meditate. Practice, practice, and you will know how to practice." Huang Lixing hugged her knees, puffed her face, and complained angrily. "Stinky immortal lord, you don't understand amorous feelings at all." Yu Qingling saw that she seemed angry, so she had to sit next to her again and apologize gently. "Then I have to practice. I have just reached the spirit emerging realm. Compared with you, I am far behind. So what? I don't care about the difference in cultivation." Huang Lixing said proudly. "I don't want to hold you back," Yu Qingling explained with a low eyebrow. Huang Lixing noticed that Yu Qingling's tone of voice had changed, and she immediately blinked and looked at him. Yu Qingling didn't shy away either, and they looked at each other. After a while, Huang Lixing couldn't help but laugh. Her smile is very cute, like small beads carved from jade. "Junior brother, you, daughter, you in love with me?" Yu Qingling didn't answer, just muttered. "Not denying it is acquiescing," Huang Lixing said quickly. Quote. "You really like me?" Huang Lixing's eyes widened in disbelief, and she couldn't help but cover her mouth with her little hand, with a look of surprise on her face. "Does Xiaoshanzun like me?" He didn't deny it. "Oh my god." Huang Lixing's breathing became rapid. Yu Qingling glanced at her, then turned around and sighed, whispering, "The deal is done, Qingyu is going to get married." "Auntie, he likes me. He, so happy." Huang Lixing didn't listen to him at all, picked up the shadow sword and started showing off to her aunt. She was like a monk who had encountered a great opportunity. She was so happy that she didn't know what to do. Yu Qingling explained helplessly in a low voice, "I mean, after Lin Qingyu gets married. Immortal lord, if you like me, can you just kiss me?" After Huang Lixing shared her happiness with her aunt, she put down the shadow sword and threw herself at Yu Qingling, looking at him begging helplessly. "Senior sister, didn't you listen to what I said? I said wait." Yu Qingling didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I won't wait. Kiss me now." Chirp. Huang Lixing pouted her pink lips and pressed over. "Sister. Well, I'm not a senior sister, I'm a daughter-in-law." Huang Lixing was very happy to get married, and at the same time he did not forget to correct Yu Qingling's title. Yu Qingling was suppressed by her and naturally couldn't move. He was too lazy to move. Anyway, for more than half a month, Huang Lixing had to be knocked down every day. Resistance is futile. The opponent is in the earth cultivation realm, and pressing him is like pressing an ant. After Huang Lixing finished acting coquettishly, Yu Qingling had a chance to breathe. He wanted to explain, but he swallowed the words as they reached his lips. What else is there to say? Could it be that there are still variables? Even if Lin Qingyu doesn't want to marry him, he won't look at him as a waste who cultivates the spiritual realm alone. He opened his eyes and stared at the sky in trance. Suddenly, he saw a beautiful figure coming from the sky. Yu Qingling hurriedly patted Huang Lixing, who was leaning on him. "Senior sister, someone is coming. Get up quickly." Huang Lixing was listening to his heartbeat. Now that he was interrupting her, she instantly felt uncomfortable. She looked up to the sky, and sure enough, a fairy came. However, it was far away and it was difficult to see who it was. Huang Lixing said angrily, "I've already hid here, how can I find you here?" This is the back mountain of Lingjing sect, a place that has not yet been developed. On weekdays almost no one comes. Huang Lixing also found this place because of love. Since the other party can find him accurately, it means that he is specifically looking for him. She had no choice but to get off Yu Qingling, who also stood up and put on a mask, leaving only 2 eyes exposed. He has finally settled down in Lingjing sect and doesn't want anyone to recognize his identity. The woman fell from the sky, and as soon as she landed on the ground, Yu Qingling's heart trembled. The person who came was none other than his previous crush, Lin Qingyu. Lin Qingyu is still the same. She is wearing a light green dress with mottled shadows on it. The slender waist is wrapped with a blue belt, which is too full to be held. She has a smart ponytail and carries a sword on her back. She looks heroic and looks like a heroine. After she landed on the ground, she saw Huang Lixing, with a smile on her cold face. Myoli, what are you doing hiding here? I've been looking for you for a long time. After she finished speaking, she looked at the young man in white next to her. Lin Qingyu's heart trembled, and he always felt that the other party was very familiar, but his cultivation was only at the human level of spiritual cultivation, and there was no way he could be the immortal who looked down upon the world. For a moment, Lin Qingyu was still in a daze, but he soon calmed down. Just like it, that immortal lord should be serving tea and water to the demon sect empress to wash her clothes now. When Huang Lixing saw Lin Qingyu, she felt like her little head was going to explode. My little ancestor, why are you here at this time? And in front of Yu Qingling. She was about to cry but had no tears, and showed a smile that was even uglier than crying. It's Qingyu, you weren't preparing for your husband recruitment meeting in Yao Palace, why did you come to me? She seemed to be out of breath when she spoke, obviously feeling guilty. Yu Qingling stood aside, looking at his nose and heart, motionless. Since Lin Qingyu is getting married, why should he feel sorry for himself? But then I heard Lin Qingyu's free and easy voice. Tisk, what kind of husband hunting meeting is this? There's not even a single horoscope. Besides, it's not like you don't know what's going on. My master was afraid that everyone would gossip, so he told the outside world that I was looking for a husband. Hey, speaking of it, it's not because of. With a sad look on her face, she couldn't let go as she looked at the flowing stream. Boom. Her words sounded like commonplace words, but to Yu Qingling's ears, they sounded like thunder. Lin Qingyu doesn't want to find a husband. And what misunderstanding did she say? Could it be that the palace master of Yao Palace, Yu Wuyan, was afraid that Lin Qingyu would be influenced by Yu Qingling? It's right to think about it. Yu Qingling's reputation is quite bad now. She is a traitor to the right path and a servant of the demonic empress. And he had pursued Lin Qingyu before. In this case, Yu Wuyan must consider the reputation of the Yao Palace saint and cut off the contact between Lin Qingyu and him. The best way is that if the saint's heart is not with him, she can find anyone to marry. When the limelight passes, the husband hunting meeting will be over. So, Lin Qingyu doesn't know how to get married at all. For a moment, Yu Qingling's breathing became rapid. He stared at Huang Lixing, as if he wanted to confess to Lin Qingyu. Huang Lixing showed a pitiful expression, opened her small mouth, and looked like she was begging him. Seeing Lin Qingyu looking at the stream, she quickly grabbed Yu Qingling's arm and whispered, please don't expose me, okay? Let's discuss it long term. Yu Qingling's heart softened. He looked at Huang Lixing's pitiful appearance and finally sighed softly. Forget it, since Lin Qingyu is not getting married, he is not in a hurry. Moreover, Huang Lixing's mother and aunt were very kind to him. Just think of it for her sake. Seeing Yu Qingling's unhappy face, she resisted the urge to speak. Huang Lixing couldn't help but be moved to tears. He still loves me. At this time, Lin Qingyu also recovered from her sentimentality. She looked at Huang Lixing and smiled and said, Xinger, don't talk about those unpleasant things. This time, I came here specifically to discuss business with you. Yeah, tell me, then. Who is this? Lin Qingyu looked at Yu Qingling and said that it was best not to have outsiders present. Huang Lixing quickly grabbed Yu Qingling's arm and said, Qingyu, this is my junior brother Ling Yu, our relationship. Her pretty face started to turn red, with a look that you know. Lin Qingyu was shocked. She looked at Huang Lixing in disbelief. This girl was so lovesick that she found a substitute. Hey, it sounds like she's quite pitiful. After all, the immortal lord chose Lin Qingyu at that time. And she can only have unrequited love. Thinking of this, Lin Qingyu still felt a little proud. She could only hold up her hands and say with a smile, congratulations to you, in that case, junior brother Ling Yu, it would be good for you to listen. Lin Qingyu then said seriously. My master received information today and discovered a new secret realm between the Nine Netherland and the Dragon Saint Kingdom. According to the analysis of Long Qilin, the concubine of the Dragon Saint Kingdom, this secret realm can only allow monks below the Earth Cultivation Mountain Tomb realm to enter. Looking at it this way, the two of us and Long Qilin are suitable. So my master sent me over to discuss with you. Do you want to go together? Quote. Secret realm. Huang Lixing glanced at Yu Qingling subconsciously. After all, he was an immortal before. But the other party didn't have much expression. Huang Lixing could only say disappointedly, isn't it dangerous to go hunting for treasure in a secret place? Lin Qingyu looked at her doubtfully and asked blankly, Maioli, are you confused? How can you do nothing if you want to move up a level? If you meditate calmly, how long will it take for you to practice? Quote. Huang Lixing sighed and said nothing, and Lin Qingyu said, it's not convenient to talk about this here. We might as well go to Sect Master Huang directly and ask her what she means. Oh. That's right, my mother must know what's going on. Huang Lixing didn't have many big ideas, so she took Yu Qingling's hand and flew to the main peak of Lingjing sect with Lin Qingyu. Huang Xining was still meditating peacefully in her meditation room. In front of her, the shadow sword floated quietly in the air. It seems that she is practicing with her sister. If the sword spirit wants to transform into a human form, it will take many years of refining. Perhaps because she sensed her daughter's arrival, Huang Xining stopped practicing. She looked at the shadow sword floating in the air and whispered. Yunur, just practice with peace of mind and strive to transform as soon as possible. The shadow sword did not move. It seemed that Huang Xinyan was obeying her sister's instructions. Mother. After Huang Lixing came in, she looked at Huang Xining blankly. Lin Qingyu bowed respectfully. Yu Qingling followed at the end. He saluted silently and did not dare to speak to avoid being exposed. Huang Xining ignored her daughter. She looked at Lin Qingyu and said with a slow smile, Qingyu's cultivation has improved again. In my opinion, it won't be long before he can reach the earthly Slender River realm. This month, Yu Wuyan is good. Fortunately, she really has a successor. Thanks to the sect master's praise, Qingyu still needs to work hard. Lin Qingyu answered neither humble nor arrogantly. Then, Huang Xining looked at Huang Lixing, and she said calmly, Xinger, what are your plans for the secret realm that Qingyu told you? Huang Lixing said with a sad face, Mother, from Lingjing sect to the secret realm, with the Dragon Saint Kingdom in between, it's such a long journey. And it's too close to the Nine Netherlands, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the demonic cult. Huang Xining laughed dumbly. She chuckled and said, My son, Juyuland is already a part of Beizhou. This secret realm is near Filong city of Dragon Saint Kingdom. They are separated by hundreds of thousands of miles. And I heard from Qingyu that Long Qilin, the concubine of the Dragon Saint Kingdom, is also quite interested in this secret realm. If the Immortal Kingdom is interested in the secret realm, the demon sect will not dare to take action rashly. The demon sect has been severely damaged and has not yet healed, and there will be no movement within a year or two. Quote. But Huang Lixing was still hesitant. She was timid by nature and didn't like taking risks. She said coquettishly, Mom, I don't think I will gain anything if I go. Seeing her hesitating, Huang Xining showed an impatient expression. This daughter is really disappointing. But there is no way. Who makes her his biological daughter? Huang Xining said angrily. Okay, I can't find you when I'm working, and you're the first one when I'm eating. It's really impossible to hold up the wall. This is how you live your life. Quote. After scolding her daughter, she was unwilling to let her daughter endure hardship after all, so she explained to Lin Qingyu with a smile. Qingyu, this child of mine is born timid. Seeing how hopeless she is, she will cause trouble to you even if she goes. If not, I'll let Ling Yu go. Although his cultivation level is low, he can still gain something by going to the secret realm. Quote. Lin Qingyu was slightly startled, and looked at Yu Qingling with her cold eyes. Let this person who is very similar to Shanzun go. Does the master of Lingjing sect also like substitute literature? Junior brother Ling Yu. She didn't refute or comment. Yao Gong has a good relationship with Lingjing sect, but who they send there is a family matter. To take a step back, if the people of the Lingjing sect are not good at cultivation, wouldn't it be cheaper for Yao Palace? But when Huang Lixing heard this, she immediately became angry. She quickly said, "Mom, if junior brother is going, then I will go too." "No, what did you just do?" Huang Xining gave a firm prohibition. "I want to go too. I want to go." Huang Lixing, contrary to her previous retreat, stamped her feet and started to act shamelessly. Her cute and innocent look made Lin Qingyu couldn't help but smile. Huang Lixing is really the little princess of Lingjing sect, everyone loves her. Huang Xining couldn't stand being pestered by her daughter. She waved her hand and a magic talisman was shot out and stuck to Huang Lixing's mouth. In an instant, the rogue Huang Lixing covered her mouth and couldn't say a word. Woo! But Huang Lixing had more options. She came over hurriedly and hugged her mother's legs, transforming into a sloth. Oops! Huang Xining has never been so embarrassed in front of outsiders. Fortunately, she had watched Lin Qingyu grow up, so she said with an apologetic expression, "Qingyu, go back and tell your master that our Lingjing sect will participate, and when will the secret realm be opened?" Woolen cloth. After half a month. Well, okay, let's just meet in Feilong City when the time is almost up. By the way, did Yu Wuyan tell you to go to Yunlin Mountain to ask? Quote. Although Huang Xining was so pestered by her daughter, she still considered things comprehensively. Yunlin Mountain is now also part of the righteous path, so it's not good to leave others behind. Lin Qingyu saw that Huang Lixing, her best friend, was acting shamelessly regardless of her image, and she could only say quickly, "Master said, let me go over and say something, then I will go now." Okay, then I won't give it away." Huang Xining bent down her slender waist and began to tear off the Huang Lixing brand plaster on her leg. Lin Qingyu left with a smile. Yu Qingling stood in the Zen room, watching the fairy leave. He sighed softly, and then took off his mask. "Okay, look how I've spoiled you now. How decent is it? Get up quickly." Quote. Huang Xining said helplessly. She waved her hand and the magic talisman on Huang Lixing's mouth was removed. Huang Lixing hugged her mother's round thighs and acted coquettishly. "I'm going too. Junior brother is going, and I'm going too. I'm afraid something will happen to him. I don't need you to accompany me. I have a shadow sword." Huang Xining smiled and pointed at the shadow sword lying in the air. Huang Xinyan on the shadow sword instantly became excited. It's better to be Yu Qingling's sword. As long as he completes the task, he can stay with Yu Qingling. Huang Lixing was speechless for a moment. Speaking of which, she refused at first. Now that Yu Qingling is going, if she wants to go again, her motives are impure. But she doesn't care what others say. If her motives are not pure, her motives are not pure. I just didn't expect that in order to teach myself a lesson, my mother would do the opposite. Why, my mother no longer loves me. I am no longer my mother's favorite daughter. It's true that a married girl can get away with it. But I'm not completely married yet. Huang Lixing sat on the ground and began to think wildly. Huang Xining looked at the absent-minded Yu Qingling, her face was kind. "Ling Yu, the disciple is here. This time, it's up to you to go and see the secret realm on behalf of Lingjing sect." Yu Qingling asked hesitantly, "Master, my disciple's current cultivation level. If he doesn't open the Chanu spiritual platform, he is really just a new monk, and he won't have much chance if he goes there. Even if there is any, it will be robbed." Huang Xining said with a smile. "It doesn't matter, just practice hard these days, and my teacher will also give you special training." "Thank you, Master," Yu Qingling said gratefully. "Since Master thinks there is nothing wrong with him, then there is nothing wrong with him. And if I go this time, I might be able to explain the ins and outs to Lin Qingyu." "Mom, just let me go," Huang Lixing begged. "Go and act coquettishly with your aunt, I'm going to start a little work for your junior brother." Huang Xining put her aside impatiently. "What a girl who can't stand up to the wall. Why didn't you take the initiative in front of Lin Qingyu just now?" Huang Lixing had no choice but to pester the shadow sword. But Huang Xinyan had to listen to Huang Xining, so the two of them started chattering in the meditation room. Huang Xining took Yu Qingling away. They found a hidden cave in the back mountain. The mother-in-law looked at her son-in-law, and the more she looked at him, the happier she became. "But if you rejoice too much, it will be bad. Ling Yu, let's retreat here for the next half-month. Master will accompany you to practice well." Huang Xining said with a smile to Yu Qingling, who looked respectful in the cave. Yu Qingling looked around the cave and found that the windows here were bright and clean. It was obviously cleaned frequently. The cave is well equipped with 2 bedrooms and a window dedicated to receiving meals from outside. It can be seen that this retreat cave is very high-end. This is Master's cave for retreat. How does it feel? How does it compare with your Yunlin mountain? After Huang Xining and Yu Qingling were alone together, her speech became much gentler, and there was a hint of the playfulness of a little daughter in her tone. Everyone has a love for beauty, and she subconsciously wants to occasionally show her charm in front of such an outstanding immortal. She knew that this was the person Huang Lixing liked, so she drew a boundary in her heart, and she swore that she would never cross it. But within the boundaries, it's not impossible to say a witticism, make a little joke, and occasionally act coquettishly. Of course it's better to be here, Master. How many years has my Yunlin mountain been established? It's just a temple in a barren mountain. Yu Qingling said sincerely. The Lingjing sect has a great cause and is a centuries-old sect. Yunlinshan is just a grassroots team. How can it compare with others? He then gave another wry smile. What about his Yunlin mountain? The current Yunlin mountain belongs to that crazy girl Su Mushui. If he goes back, he will be kidnapped by Su Mushui and thrown into a dungeon. Huang Xining saw his loneliness, and the softest part of her heart was touched. She couldn't help but hug Yu Qingling gently and reached out to touch his head. Good boy, don't be sad. Lingjing sect is your home. You have us with you, okay? Yu Qingling felt her strong maternal concern. He blushed a little and felt a little happy. I am really happy to be cared about by Master. Well, I'm very happy to be with Master. Yu Qingling smiled sweetly. Huang Xining saw him become happy and wished she could give him the moon in the sky. Ling Yu, if you get married to Li Xing in the future, the Lingjing sect will be yours, so you must be nice to Li Xing, okay? This is the only requirement for me to be a mother. Quote. Huang Xining looked at him and said with shining eyes. Yu Qingling froze there instantly. If it had been an hour ago, he might have nodded in agreement. But now, when he knew that Huang Lixing had lied to him and deliberately told Lin Qingyu about finding a husband, he began to doubt this relationship. It's not that he doesn't like Huang Lixing, but this girl is always lying to him. No one likes others to lie to them. Master, I forgive you and obey your orders. He lowered his head and refused softly. He did not dare to look into Huang Xining's eyes. Ling Yu, why is this? Don't you like Xinger? I know she is usually quite unruly, but she is not bad in nature. Huang Xining didn't get the answer she wanted, and she felt anxious, but a strange thought appeared in her mind. He didn't agree. Actually, pretty good too. He is not his son-in-law, but his apprentice. Disciple's words. Sijingzhou should not stop the master-disciple relationship. Yu Qingling sighed and explained softly. Master, I mainly don't know what kind of feelings my senior sister has for me. Because she is not honest. Quote, are you talking about her involvement in Lin Qingyu's recruitment of a husband? Yes, she knew that I admired Qingyu before, but she still lied to me like that. I can't accept this. At least now, I won't forgive her. Yu Qingling's tone was gentle, but her words were still firm. Huang Xining sighed helplessly. Alas, my daughter is reckless. This little immortal lord obviously has the kind of temperament that accepts soft things but not hard ones. If you don't lie to him, if you keep trying hard every day, he will agree in the end. It's good now, is it a good fight? Huang Xining pulled Yu Qingling to sit by the bed. She said with kind eyes, Ling Yu, Myoli did something wrong in this matter, but it's because she loves you so much, and she's not with you anymore. Speaking of this, Huang Xining blushed instead. She has never experienced this kind of thing, so naturally she doesn't know how to become Yu Qingling's woman. Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. I know, I will be responsible, but I am still angry. Hearing what he said, Huang Xining couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. After all, it's just a young couple having conflicts. The head of the bed and the foot of the bed were tied, so she didn't have to worry too much. When we get out, I'll vent your anger for you. Huang Xining comforted him with a smile. Yu Qingling remained silent and did not respond. Huang Xining is so cute to see that he can still get angry. She couldn't help but hugged Yu Qingling's shoulders, looked at his face and said with a smile, You, a little immortal, are still angry. You are not as grand as an immortal at all. Yu Qingling smiled sheepishly and said, what kind of immortal? I will always be your disciple in front of you. Can I not be an apprentice? Huang Xining suddenly said this. But then she realized that she had made a mistake and quickly changed her words, be your son-in-law. The more I see you, the happier I will be. Yu Qingling was still angry with Huang Lixing, so she turned her head and didn't agree. Don't you want to be a son-in-law? Seeing him angry, Huang Xining suddenly felt distressed. Oops, why did you make the person on the top of my heart angry again? What a sin. She couldn't help but stretched out her hand and touched Yu Qingling's pretty face. Ling Yu is not angry anymore. Master said the wrong thing. His skin is so good. Only then did Yu Qingling realize that his shoulders had been hugged by Huang Xining, and his face was pinched by Huang Xining's other hand. The whole person was surrounded by Master. Master. He opened his mouth and looked at Huang Xining in confusion. Is this posture not very elegant? But Huang Xining looked at him intently, and her mature and beautiful face slowly came closer. Ling Yu, I recently found an ancient mental method that can open and close the spiritual platform at any time. Do you want to learn it? Yeah, I want to learn. If you want to learn, don't refuse. Sweet, very sweet. Yu Qingling seemed to be in a dream, sitting blankly on the edge of the bed in a daze. Huang Xining had already shyly left here and went to the master bedroom to calm down. He is still here recalling the intimacy just now. After a long time, Yu Qingling slowly stood up and came to the door of the master bedroom. He said softly, Master. Wu. Then he saw Huang Xining lying on her side on the bed, pulling on the quilt and crying. Master, please stop crying. It's my disciple's fault. Yu Qingling came to her side and gently patted her round shoulder. I have been practicing for so many years, and finally I did something like this. The leader of the Lingjing sect, an expert in the Blue Sea realm, Lingfei Fairy Huang Xining, was crying like a chaste young woman who had made a mistake. Master, didn't you just teach me the ancient mind method? Halfway through, you don't want to teach me anymore. Yu Qingling sighed and found a step for her. Huang Xining wiped her tears with the back of her white hands. She blinked her big eyes and said with tears in her eyes, really? We were really preaching and teaching just now, right? Well, the disciple is still waiting for the next step. Huang Xining sat up and lightly hit his hand with a blushing face. I hate it, where is the next step? Seeing her master looking so cute, Yu Qingling's heart beat violently. He really showed no resistance at all when facing his eldest sister. For a moment, Yu Qingling also said impulsively, I want to take the next step. Huang Xining stared at him blankly, with a look of disbelief. Yu Qingling also mustered up the courage to look at her. The two were silent for a long time. After a while, Huang Xining was finally defeated. She lowered her head and said leisurely, you can't bully us like this. I don't have any conscience. How could I bully? Yu Qingling hurriedly defended herself. Bully? Don't be kidding, he is just cultivating the spiritual emerging realm, the most basic level of cultivation. Huang Xining can turn into ashes as long as she waves her hand. Okay, I know you're not that kind of person. Huang Xining was amused by his appearance. A beautiful woman bursts into tears and smiles, which is naturally more beautiful than beautiful. For the first time, Yu Qingling felt that Fairy Lingfei was the real beauty of Sijingzhou. Huang Xining smoothed the messy hair in front of her forehead, stretched out her hand, and said lazily and elegantly, help me up. Yu Qingling held her weak, boneless hands and helped her up. As if supporting his pregnant wife, he slowly helped Huang Xining to the outer room. Huang Xining was naturally very satisfied with his attentive service. But she also felt an inexplicable sadness. She looked at Yu Qingling and couldn't help but purse her lips and act coquettishly. Have you ever served the demon sect empress like this before? Yu Qingling smiled bitterly. Master, you are overthinking. How can Lang Firen be as noble and elegant as you? I don't believe it. You will be obedient. Huang Xining patted the place next to her and motioned for him to sit down. This is a technique I found in ancient books. It is a special technique that few people practice. After all, no monk would close and open his spiritual platform every day. Huang Xining sat next to him and said with blurred eyes. Yu Qingling listened very carefully. Huang Xining had no choice but to patiently teach him the ancient method. Yu Qingling mastered it quickly. He sat cross-legged upright, and then began to experiment with the techniques. Hoo-hoo. Sure enough, his 3-inch spiritual platform was opened directly. A strong surge of cultivation surged to his limbs. Yu Qingling felt the strength he had not seen for a long time, and he let out a long sigh of relief. But he knew that Chanu's immortal method was a thing of the past. He slowly closed the spiritual platform, really opening up freely. This time there is no 1-month switch interval like before. Master, this technique is very practical, Yu Qingling said excitedly. It can be turned on and off at any time, which is much more practical. You are studying very seriously. Huang Xining bit her red lips and looked at him sadly. What a lump of wood. You sit there cross-legged and start practicing. Is being a teacher so unattractive? Huang Xining is in the earth cultivation realm, so she can completely stop eating. But after Yu Qingling received the lunch box, she still liked to sit across from him and eat quietly with him. The food on the dinner table was very light, and there was a candle on the table. The two of them faced each other with chopsticks and ate slowly. Although they didn't speak, they looked at each other occasionally, and then each showed a calm smile. It's true that it's plain and simple. For Huang Xining, this is simply a new experience that she has never had before. Is this how ordinary people live their lives? Under the illumination of the candlelight, Huang Xining's pretty face became whiter and rosier. She blinked her big eyes and said brightly, Ling Yu, it's been half a month, how has your cultivation been? Yu Qingling looked at Huang Xining, and his eyes became calmer. For half a month, he and Huang Xining were like an ordinary couple, living a leisurely and comfortable life. The charm of a gentlewoman is countless times greater than that of the demonic empress. So he looked at Huang Xining and said calmly, you won't gain much in half a month. To reach the realm of accumulating good deeds, you will have to stay in seclusion for at least 2 months. 2 months, you think so? Huang Xining rolled her eyes at him charmingly. This enemy actually wanted her to stay with him for another 2 months. They are now more than master and disciple, not lovers yet. This is of course Huang Xining deceiving her lover that she is not satisfied. The two were very close and cuddled up against each other in bed every night. Everything that needs to be done is done except for the last step. But Huang Xining likes this kind of relationship very much, and she needs an excuse to prove that she has not crossed the line. But she didn't know how long she could hold on. Master, I am going to Feilong City tomorrow, Yu Qingling said with a smile. He looked at Huang Xining and felt at ease in his heart. This is the wife I want most, one who is gentle and virtuous and will not cheat every day. But, I wish we could meet each other before we were married. Huang Xining put down her chopsticks and held her fair cheeks with her delicate wrists. She said gloomily, go find your Qingyu. Don't you miss her every day? Yu Qingling said quickly, I didn't. I promise I have never thought about Lin Qingyu in the past half month. He really didn't think about Lin Qingyu anymore, because every time he thought about it, he would feel a little painful. What about, Xinger, have you thought about it? Huang Xining said playfully. Yu Qingling stood up hastily, fearing that she would misunderstand. Me neither, I only care about you. Huang Xining was so shocked by his confession that she couldn't speak. She stared blankly at the young man in front of her. Then, she slowly lowered her head, with tears streaming down her beautiful eyes. Master, Yu Qingling saw her crying, so she came over and gently helped her wipe away her tears. You can't miss Maioli. Huang Xining buried her head in his arms, hugged his waist tightly, and seemed to be mumbling to herself. But I don't want you to miss them. Huang Xining was extremely conflicted. She is the master, she feels sorry for her disciple, but she is also jealous of him. This made her very uncomfortable. Yu Qingling didn't speak. At this time, he only needed to touch Huang Xining's hair to express comfort. After a long time, Huang Xining finally recovered from her joy and anxiety. After she said this, she began to practice Mingyu chapter with Yu Qingling, so that she could accompany Yu Qingling to the secret realm. Although being with him doesn't help much, at least he feels at ease. More importantly, Huang Xining was afraid that Yu Qingling would be too charming and meet another woman. She could at least supervise. And this time she was going with Lin Qingyu, so she had to watch by her side. Then I will accompany you to Filong City. My body will naturally be safe in the cave. Huang Xining said quickly. Yu Qingling panted for a while on the bed, and then she gained some strength. Then I will follow what you said. Master will accompany me and we can discuss things when we encounter them. He said softly. Huang Xining said with a smile, that's natural. Look at how well you are treated. There is someone accompanying you when you go out. Other apprentices don't have this kind of treatment. He seemed to be exhausted and soon fell asleep. Huang Xining felt the rich spiritual energy in his spiritual platform. She couldn't help but sit up and meditate. Morning comes quickly. After Yu Qingling woke up, she sealed the cave to prevent Huang Xining's body from being damaged. He posted a forbidden spell to show that the sect leader was in retreat and no one was allowed to disturb him. Then, he opened the Ling Tai, restored himself to the heavenly cultivation Tai realm, turned into a white light, and instantly arrived at the main peak of Lingjing sect. Huang Lixing probably took the shadow sword away, so he had to find Huang Lixing to get his sword back. So Yu Qingling came to Huang Xining's small courtyard and outside the room. Just as he was about to knock on the door, he heard Huang Lixing's complaints inside. Auntie, today should be the day when Ling Yu comes out of seclusion, right? Mom is really serious. She said half a month is just half a month, she really won't let me meet her. Yu Qingling naturally couldn't hear what Shadow Sword said, but Huang Xining could hear her daughter's words. When she was in the morning platform, she instantly felt unbearably guilty. This half month, she actually had a good life with this rebellious enemy. However, she also has a sense of pride. What's the use of being young? The most important thing for a woman is gentleness. Who doesn't like a gentle big sister? Yu Qingling felt something strange about her, but he didn't know how to persuade her. After all, this matter is so complicated. He opened the door and said softly, Senior sister, I'm coming out. Huang Lixing was complaining while holding the shadow sword when she suddenly saw the person she longed for standing at the door. She stood up excitedly, but then her little mouth became flat. She stumbled over, threw herself into Yu Qingling's arms, patted his chest and cried, You are a heartless lover, a heartless man, why didn't you come out for so long? I hate you. Quote, Yu Qingling could only hug her and comfort her softly. Sister, I have to prepare, so I studied with the master for a while. Then did you eat the beggar's chicken that I sent to you that day? Huang Lixing raised her head and asked him aggrievedly. Have eaten. Is it tasty? Very delicious. Did you miss me while you were eating? Huang Lixing asked and answered questions to him. Although they were all simple and mindless questions, that's how love is, and he liked to talk some light nonsense. But hearing these words in Huang Xining's ears really made her feel on pins and needles. It turns out that the beggar's chicken that day was a gift from Myoli. At that time, she told Yu Qingling that you would feed me and I would feed you. Even in the morning platform, Huang Xining's face was red. She was so ashamed. Fortunately, this is the only place in heaven and earth, and no one knows she is here. After waiting for a while, Huang Xining relaxed. Yes, she didn't cross the line. If you haven't crossed the line, then everyone is normal. Huang Xining instantly found a reason to hide her shame, and she felt relieved. You have to keep a distance from Yu Qingling from now on. A hug at most, no further. She glanced at the meditating soul, and suddenly found another step with herself. The soul is not a real person, so this kiss is okay. After Yu Qingling and Huang Lixing lingered here for a long time, he said seriously, Senior sister, then you can practice well here in the sect. I have to take the shadow sword away, otherwise I won't even have a useful weapon. Quote, my mother is in seclusion, and you want to take my aunt away again. Then I will be the only one left. Can you change her? She quickly took out a lavender sword from her storage bag and placed it in Yu Qingling's hand. This is my sword. It's called the Water Eye Sword, which means looking through the autumn water. Although it's not as powerful as the Shadow Sword, it should be enough for self-defense. Huang Lixing quickly promoted his sword. Although she has a high level of cultivation, she doesn't like to be alone. She wants to be accompanied by her relatives no matter where she is. If she were to take charge of the overall situation on the mountain alone, it would really scare her to death. Yu Qingling had no choice but to nod and take the sword. Now that he had a storage bag, he put the Water Eye Sword in it. Then, he smiled and said, Auntie, there's nothing we can do about it. Your niece won't let me take you away. Buzz buzz. The shadow sword trembled slightly and made bursts of sword sounds. Huang Xinyan should be protesting against Huang Lixing's domineering behavior. But the protest was ineffective. Huang Lixing quickly patted the shadow sword and pretended to be crazy. My good aunt, just stay with me. Are you really willing to let me stay home alone? How dangerous it is. The Lingjing sect has a great cause, so to say it is dangerous is nonsense. But Huang Lixing has been favored by thousands of people since she was born, so she feels danger, that is danger. What if you are scared by bugs? What if you choke on your meal? That's the danger. Huang Xinyan lost her temper at all and could only watch Yu Qingling leave helplessly. Yu Qingling did not take away the shadow sword forcibly, mainly because Huang Xinyan was already in the spiritual platform. If Huang Xinyan had to enter the spiritual platform with the shadow sword, would the two sisters die of embarrassment when they met? Huang Lixing put down the shadow sword and accompanied Yu Qingling to the teleportation array on the top of the mountain. Yu Qingling's current cultivation level is too low and she can't even handle a sword. And he didn't say anything about unlocking the spiritual platform. The Chan Nu Immortal technique will only be used when it is absolutely necessary. You still have to disguise yourself on weekdays. Junior brother, you really don't need me to accompany you. Huang Lixing watched Yu Qingling come on stage. She looked at Yu Qingling eagerly and said, no need, I will come back well. Yu Qingling said with a faint smile. Then, the teleportation array was activated. Yu Qingling disappeared on the top of the mountain in just an instant. The land of 9 netherworlds, the demon sect. A month has passed since Yu Qingling escaped. Apart from the fact that Lang Firen started spreading rumors about Yu Qingling to the outside world, there was no further news. How she worked before and how she still works now. The demon cult also recovered most of its vitality under her leadership. And her methods don't stop there. She gave the order a month ago that from now on, she is not allowed to call herself a demon sect. We are a serious Qingyu sect, and we are so hated by people when we shout about the demon sect every day. Who wouldn't want to kick us in the face? The focus on production has made some elders and disciples dissatisfied, and now they have changed the name of the demon cult and are not allowed to call themselves the demon cult. This naturally arouses resistance from some people. But it doesn't matter. Although Lang Firen claimed to the outside world that she was no longer a demon sect and had changed her ways, but internally she still used the methods of the demon sect. Disobedient, right, everyone counts as one, kill them all. After her bloody suppression, the entire Qingyu sect was wiped out. It really does have a bit of a noble and upright character. Of course, domestic affairs must be handled, and diplomacy must also be handled. Lang Firen has already sent generous gifts to various sects in Beizhou. At least these sects will not come from Beizhou. At the same time, she also proactively established a good relationship with the Empress of the Dragon Saint Kingdom. Within half a month, she became a guest of the Dragon Saint Kingdom. Long Zuyu, the Empress of the Dragon Saint Kingdom, was in the Four Directions realm of earth cultivation and had the same strength as Lang Firen. She is about 1.8 meters tall and has a cool and noble appearance. When she saw Lang Firen, it could be said that a hero cherishes a hero, and a beauty cherishes a beauty. It was like old friends at first sight. The two immediately became close friends. The Dragon Saint Kingdom is a fairy kingdom and is not that concerned about the dispute between good and evil factions. Just like the black and white in their country, Long Zuyu will recognize it as long as it can be used by the court. In this way, Lang Firen had already taken Qingyumen to find a towering tree to enjoy the shade. Long Zuyu was currently in a garden at Qingyu Gate, drinking tea and admiring flowers face to face with Lang Firen. She was wearing a light yellow dragon robe. Because of her slender figure, she looked quite majestic. In addition, she had a bright appearance. She was really a peony flower whose mother graced the world. Lang Firen sat opposite her in a neither humble nor arrogant manner. She was holding a cup of smoky tea in her hand, looking at the koi fish swimming in the pool, slightly lost in thought. Fei Ran, what are you thinking about? Long Zuyu sat upright, drank tea, looked at his best friend and asked with a smile. Lang Firen came back to her senses. She put down the tea bowl, held her pointed chin with one hand, and sighed slightly sadly, hey, I'm upset. Ha ha, This steamed cloud tea from Shu's country in Nanzhou is quite effective in calming the mind and calming the energy. Can't that just make you calm down? Long Zuyu looked at the fragrant tea and sipped it slowly. This tea was a gift given to her by the Lord of Shuazawa Kingdom, who came here specially to enjoy tea with her friends. But Lang Firen obviously had something on her mind, and no matter how fragrant the tea was, it was hard for her to let go. Long Zuyu naturally became curious. The Qingyu sect is now prospering, Lang Firen is in control, and the disciples under the sect have begun to take the right path and practice hard. What else is there to worry about? Lang Firen seemed to be aware of her gaffe. She smiled slightly in a daze and said, Zuyu, I'm fine. I'm just a little sentimental. Let's talk about business. Can the Empress of the demon cult also be sentimental? Long Zuyu asked jokingly. The people Lang Firen killed in this month could fill up this pool. How could such a bloody leader be sentimental? If we don't practice at home, we still have 7 emotions and 6 desires. After Lang Firen dealt with it casually, she said seriously, can I be the host of the Shadow Secret Realm this time? Oh, why do you, the dignified head of the Qingyu sect, do such a thankless job? Long Zuyu didn't understand. You must know that when this kind of secret realm is opened, all the sects and fairy kingdoms in the 4 realms continent will send people to explore it. When there are too many people, there will be chaos, so local forces need to make arrangements. In fact, this is also a meeting and exchange between various forces in the name of the secret realm. Therefore, the person in charge of secret realm activities must be versatile. But even so, there will be friction and conflicts between the various forces, especially those with blood feuds, who will also meet because of this gathering. How to arrange the various forces is already a headache, let alone handle these conflicts fairly. Therefore, wherever the secret realm appears, the sect and fairy kingdom will feel troubled. Unless it appears in the Jadao Holy Land in the middle of the 4 realms continent, which is the training place of the only great emperor in the world, the Purple Star Empress. In the Great Emperor, no one dares to make mistakes. Now Lang Firen took the initiative to share Long Zuyu's worries, which made her feel very surprised and grateful. Lang Firen smiled and explained, I'm not helping you in vain, I still have conditions. You tell me, I'll give you whatever you want. How can I be so vulgar? I only have 2 requests. First, you must find me a place to live in your palace. It is best to be secluded. Long Zuyu said casually, this is natural. Can I find you a palace? That's not necessary. Just a small courtyard is enough. Lang Firen then said, also, because our Qingyu sect had conflicts with the Dongzhou sect before, my apprentice Shenrongrong will also participate in the secret realm this time. I hope that Her Royal Highness can cooperate with my apprentice, at least in the secret realm, don't kill each other. Long Zuyu smiled and said, these are your demands. What do I think they are? I have promised you. Don't worry about Keelan, she has a good relationship with Rongrong. Then, she asked with some disbelief, really there are no other requests? Are you, the big boss, really trying to do something good? Lang Firen joked, what can I ask for? You can sit on your throne for me. Here you go, I just don't want to do it. Long Zuyu rolled his eyes at her sadly. After saying that, she looked at the swimming fish and felt sad for a few seconds. It's been hundreds of years since the late emperor passed away, right? Long Zuyu thought of the previous leader of the Dragon Saint Kingdom, and his appearance had become blurry. Come to think of it, it was already 100 years ago. At that time, I was still an ignorant young woman in the harem. Stop, 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 I've heard you say it hundreds of times. I'm tired of it. I know you want a man. I promise to find you a good-looking one in the future. Quote. Lang Firen quickly interrupted her thoughts. Don't reminisce. If you reminisce, don't do anything today. Hey, I made a careless friend. Long Zuyu sighed helplessly. The 2 drank tea for a while and then left together. Long Zuyu went back to her palace to instruct her daughter Long Keelan on relevant matters. Early next morning, Lang Firen found Shenrongrong and asked her to prepare to go to the secret realm. Master, will he show up? Within a month, Shenrongrong's demeanor had changed. She was like a sharp blade now, her beautiful eyes full of murderous intent and indifference. In the past month, she had killed many people on behalf of Lang Firen. Her cruel methods were truly frightening, and she had truly confirmed her position as the #1 saint of the demon cult. In addition, she also became moody and often went to the dungeon to interrogate prisoners. At least 200 people died under her torture. Now when he heard about the secret realm, Shenrongrong's murderous aura started to surge out. Lang Firen saw her disciple being so angry at Yu Qingling, and she could only shake her head secretly. Shenrongrong obviously hated her as much as her love was deep. She said, "If you don't want to be controlled by Chan Nu's immortal magic, you have to seal the spiritual platform forever, but after sealing it, you still have to practice. The cultivation level required by this secret realm is not high now, so it is the best choice for him to improve his cultivation level. You must know that our little immortal is not a person who is willing to do anything for others. He will definitely find various ways to make himself stronger." Quote. When talking about Yu Qingling, Lang Firen's eyes lit up. No one understands Yu Qingling better than her. This young man who can escape from her dragnet, although he doesn't know where he is hiding, he will definitely go to the secret realm. For sure, it was this kind of unwillingness to admit defeat that made Lang Firen more and more obsessed with him. Only by conquering a disobedient boy can you feel a sense of accomplishment. She couldn't arouse the least interest in those people who would kneel down and eat soft food as soon as they met. Shenrongrong was not as calm and composed as Lang Firen. Now when she thinks that Yu Qingling lied to her, she becomes so angry that she wants to kill someone. This big scumbag, if I see him this time, I must cut him into pieces. The master and apprentice immediately got up and headed to Phylong City without further hesitation. Qingyu sect has now cooperated with Long Shunguo, so there is also a teleportation array in Juyu land. The two of them were too lazy to fly and came to the teleportation array. Start the formation. In an instant, Lang Firen and her apprentice appeared in a camp. The people of Phylong City have set up simple tents outside the secret realm to provide simple accommodation for the monks who came to explore the secret realm. In order to make it easier for the monks to find the secret realm, Long Zuyu also set up a teleportation array in the camp. This is also to prevent these monks from flooding into Phylong City. The capital of the Dragon Saint Kingdom must not allow trouble. At noon, the secret realm will open. So the monks who came had already gathered in the camp, looking at a dark floating cave entrance 100 meters away. That is the entrance to the secret realm. The Empress of the Dragon Saint Kingdom has already given it a name after preliminary exploration. It's called the Secret Realm of Shadows. It is rumored that this is a secret realm left by an expert in the Four Directions realm. Because his shadow sword was taken away, the secret realm was opened. There are countless treasures inside, and there are also cultivation limits, so it is most suitable for young talents to enter cultivation. This time many monks from Sijingzhou came. But they are mainly people from the two continents, Dongzhou and Beizhou. Shizhou and Nanzhou are not that interested in this low-level secret realm. Coincidentally, the various sects in Dongzhou and Beizhou now attach great importance to Qingyu sect. When Lang Firen appeared with Shenrongrong, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. Lang Firen was so dazzling. His aura and cultivation are enough to overwhelm the heroes. Don't say that Long Zuyu is not here. Even if she is here, she can't take away Lang Firen's charm. It can be said that Qingling is not around, but the Empress is the one to be respected. Everyone immediately started whispering among themselves. Is this the Empress of the demon cult? And the saint of the demon cult? Aren't they driven to the Nine Netherlands? Don't talk nonsense. Now we are no longer a demon sect. We have changed our name. Now we are called Qingyumen. Yes, please pay attention. Now the Qingyu sect has cooperated with the Dragon Saint Kingdom, and just now Her Royal Highness Long Qilan, the concubine of the Dragon Saint Kingdom, also announced that this event will be hosted by the unpopular host. Oh my god, the Empress of the Demon Cult from the Four Directions realm of Earth cultivation is here to host the event. How can we still do it? For a moment, everyone was trembling. At this time, a woman in luxurious palace clothes floated to the side of the teleportation array. She bowed slightly and said politely, "Qilan pays homage to Master Lang. She is Long Qilan, the princess of the Dragon Saint Kingdom." With a smile on her face, Lang Firen took Shenrongrong down from the teleportation array slowly, without any of the murderous aura of the Empress. She looked dignified like the headmistress of a well-known and upright family. "Your Highness, there is no need to be polite. I am here to contribute to the Dragon Saint Kingdom. Lang Firen's tone was melodious, which made people feel comfortable listening. Long Keelan didn't say much. She looked at Shen Rongrong and knew that this was her partner. Lang Firen looked up at the time, and then she flew up and floated in the air. Looking at everyone, a sense of coercion appeared. Just such a gentle movement made the young leaders of various sects unable to breathe. She said calmly, "The appearance of a secret realm near the capital of the Dragon Saint Kingdom this time is an auspicious sign for the Dragon Saint Kingdom. I am under the order of the Empress to host the exploration of the secret realm. It is really unworthy of me. But the Emperor's kindness is great, and I hope that all my colleagues can give me some face, participate in the exploration well, and don't cause trouble. If everything goes well, I, Qingyuman, will definitely thank you. If anyone dares to make waves without wind." Snort. Quote. Lang Firen snorted coldly and did not continue speaking. Her words were neither light nor heavy, but they were significant enough. Especially the last cold snort made people realize that the beautiful woman in front of them was not an accomplished person with a pure heart and few desires. She was a murderous female devil before. Everyone was silent. The monks who originally wanted to cause trouble closed their mouths tightly and did not dare to breathe loudly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.